Wrestling fans, we explode into Christmas for the 9th annual Paul Bearer Holiday Headlocks Toy Drive Cyber Fan Fest. A human sea of superstar guests have come to MWF Studios for live interviews, tributes, and virtual autograph signings. The good news is, if you miss these superstar signings, we have individual autograph photos available as well as all-inclusive VIP packages throughout the season. If you want them for yourself or to give us a holiday gift for Christmas, get the order in by December the 19th. On Christmas night, we'll reveal the winner of the massive Christmas Week Mega Raffle, where one lucky fan wins an entire jackpot of prizes, again, to benefit the Paul Bearer Holiday Headlocks Toy Drive. 2020 has been a brutal year for the economy, as well as our toy drive efforts. We could use any and all the help you could give us. Be part of the professional wrestling community. If you're going to take part in any toy drive this year, let it be one where we update Santa Claus's GPS and honor Paul Bearer's memory. Head on over to BostonWrestling.com now.
This is Mick Foley.
This is Harley Race.
This is Shelton Benjamin.
This is Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff.
This is the Monster Abyss.
And this is Daniel Bryan.
This is JBL, and you're watching the MWF.
Be there live.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our 2009 TLC Watch Along. We're just the night before 2020 TLC. We're going to bring you back 11 years to the first TLC installment. See a great couple of matches tonight. You see the DX reunion. You see one of the best tag teams, and Big Show and Chris Jericho, a tag team that I like. You see Undertaker versus Batista in a chairs match, and many others. So let's dive into it. You guys can go on the WWE Network. You type in 2009 TLC. You hit it, and we're going to watch it along together. So grab a beverage, grab a snack, and we'll watch along.
All right, wrestling fans, if you're watching the live premiere, we'll give you a second. We'll repeat those instructions. If you're watching after the premiere, pay us no mind, because you can watch along as you like anytime. But if you're going to have fun with us as we do it, head to WWE Network right now and log in. Then you go to WWE Pay-Per-View. You find TLC. You find the lovely thumbnail for Tables, Ladders, and Chairs 2009. And I guess they can always pause in a live premiere. Can they not, or am I wrong?
They'd have to pause both, us and the TV.
Well, that's all right. All right. And so I'm going to do the big countdown. I'm going to go 3, 2, 1, click. So we'll all be watching everything at the same time. So all of you great fans now that are in TLC 2009 from December the 13th, 2009, get ready with me. Get your cursor on the little sideways arrow or whatever you call it. We're going to do it together. 3, 2, 1, click. And off we go.
Back to 2009. If I remember correctly, this event was in San Antonio, Texas, but we'll find out when they do the big open of showing everybody in the crowd excited with their signs. Michael Cole, he'll say, welcome to the AT&T Center in San Antonio, Texas, but we'll find out.
All right, we will.
This, I believe, was this Undertaker's last title run? This area here? I think he won the last one.
I don't even think he had the title in 2000. Oh, no, wait.
In 2010, remember that feud he had with Kane? But he never won the title.
I don't think Kane ever lost it to him.
No, because Kane beat him 3 pay-per-views in a row in 2010, but that's the year after.
They didn't realize all Undertaker was as banged up as they thought.
But this was actually Sheamus' first pay-per-view.
Yeah, it was a big one. All right, let me zoom out so I can get into my old man yellow pillow, ladies and gentlemen. I know you enjoy the old Marty yellow pillow, as we have a little late night Saturday night fun here at, where are we? The zip code of Champion 02176.
The night before TLC.
2020. Don't forget, wrestling fans, as part of our TLC 2020 coverage, we're going to have former WWE Cruiserweight Champion, what's his name? TJP with us. TJP, live in studio. All right, now we're going to go back in time 11 years. What did WWE look like 11 years ago?
This was actually the time I started watching, about a year after.
Wow.
So I was just just started watching wrestling, so this was an amazing pay-per-view to me because I was only 9 years old.
Nice set.
I'm telling you, I believe it's San Antonio. So you
can give yourself the Lanny Poffo treatment if you're right. Yeah, you're right.
There it is. See, you know all the older stuff back in the 80s and 90s, but when it comes, for me, if it's between 2008 and now, I had zero interest in watching WWE pay-per-views at this point. I was not going to pay $60. Did you watch this live?
No, I've probably never
really?
seen this.
Oh, really?
No.
It's a good pay-per-view. I know we say the modern times now aren't as good, but this was one of the pay-per-views I thought, even now.
It was a good lineup from what you told me.
And the opening match is for the ECW Championship. It's a ladders match between Shelton Benjamin and Christian.
Well, now I definitely want to watch it. Former Millennium Wrestling Federation Heavyweight Champion Shelton Benjamin. Christian was a good guy we worked with in TNA. Tony Chimmel, the recently released ring announcer in the ring right now.
And I was...
For an extremely large championship belt.
And I was... when they set up this match, the ladders match, I believe it had to have been either Mohegan Sun, Hartford, or Bridgeport.
Yeah.
I think it was Bridgeport, where they set up this match. And the way they set it up was they had Christian sitting on one ladder at the top of it, and Shelton sitting on the other.
Well, I tell you, Shelton Benjamin is certainly someone that executed when it came to ladder matches throughout his career. I do not believe I've ever seen this one. Like I said, I gave up on the monthly pay-per-views for WWE probably somewhere around 2002.
Really?
Yeah. And then when I got injured after the accidents with Sheiky Baby, where I had so much free time at home, for maybe a half year, I started watching them again. And then outside of the big ones, WrestleMania, I'd always get WrestleMania, and then depending upon the lineup, the Rumble and or SummerSlam. Other than that, I didn't have the interest in it. I didn't like the TV show, so why bother to spend $50 or $60 as opposed to $9.99 now on WWE Network, where you can enjoy them every month for the price of a value meal at McDonald's now.
What did you think? I don't think we've ever really talked about him, Christian.
I thought he was solid. I think he was a top guy in TNA, but he wasn't a top guy in WWE.
Do you believe all the hype of him being in the Hall of Fame? Do you think he should be a Hall of Famer?
With what the credentials seem to be in the WWE Hall of Fame? Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, the credentials, Snoop Dogg's in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Well, I'm just going by the actual...
Oh, no, I know. I'm just saying that the people they have in there is kind of, then they added the celebrities wing and...
Minus the celebrity. I'm just going by wrestling talent alone. By the wrestling talent they have in that Hall of Fame,
just saying,
he's deserving.
Overall, the past... When do they add that celebrity in every year?
Pete Rose was the first one I remember in 2004.
Well, now they've added it yearly. You know what I mean? Every year there seems to be one... They kind of have a format now. One tag team, one celebrity, one top guy.
One African American.
One mid-carder, and then one kind of lower guy. Just, they have a kind of format they do now. What did you think of Shelton's gold hair? I liked it when he was doing that gold standard.
I think it made him stand out a little more. Mm-hmm. At a time he was trying to come up with anything that was going to make him stand out after, he had a couple of times when he was barely scraping that glass ceiling, and it never happened for the poor guy. He's had a great career. He's made some good money for himself, but he never became the main eventer that he should have been, in my opinion.
He was in a bunch of the Money in the Bank ladder matches, too. He would have been a prime person to get over in one of those matches, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, look at for a short period of time, Jack Swagger in 2010, just after this, he was one of those guys that, not many people thought of as a top guy, and he won the Money in the Bank, and then he cashed in. He had a little short run with the title until, he got beat by Rey Mysterio at Money in the Bank in 2010, and then 2 seconds after Rey Mysterio beat Swagger, Kane came out and cashed in the Money in the Bank briefcase that he won in the opening match of that night.
Well,
So-
it's sad. In one of the great matches in the history of Monday Night Raw and one of the great matches of the history of the now TD Garden in Boston, Shelton absolutely detests the match he had with Shawn Michaels as part of the Gold Rush tournament in May of 2005 because he felt if he wasn't going to get a chance to main event after that classic, it was never going to happen. And you know what? Never happened.
Is that where the best sweet chin music of all time happened?
I guess it's up to those that are sweet chin music aficionados.
Well, you know which one I'm talking about.
Yes,
right?
yeah, when he did it off the top rope, when he jumped and Michaels hit him in
Yeah.
the middle of the ring. Yeah, that
Did
was
you like that?
match. It was a great match. And about just a little more than a year before that, when they did, actually one of the few times they did a good draft, or however you want to describe it, Shelton got sent to Raw from SmackDown. At the time, he was teaming with Charlie Haas. And he got sent to Raw. He got a big, it was reminiscent of Sting and Ric Flair from the first Clash of the Champions. But Shelton actually went over on Triple H. He beat him, got a win, clean, in the middle. They had a rematch the next week where Triple H, instead of putting him over as a real threat and a tremendous athlete, kind of make a joke out of Shelton. I think Shelton beat him again in a rematch, but instead of giving him credibility, giving him more wins, they just kind of gave him the huge win over Triple H and then kind of went 50-50 with him, which was a disappointment because you could have, should have, would have had a real shot at making a main event player out of Shelton, where he went over. How many people did Triple H put over clean in the middle back in 2004? Not many.
And if you fast forward to now, I believe tomorrow night on TLC, I don't know if it's going to be official yet, but he might be challenging for the Raw Tag Team Championships. Going up against the New Day, Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, which I believe will be finalized probably by now. I mean, it's the night before, but we're taping this on December 6th. So
We're supposed to be having our Tony Atlas Christmas party. I have to leave the set for a moment because my ankles, feet, and knees are killing me from the hellacious weekend we've had with Savio Vega and the Nasty Boys, and before my legs become inflamed and I wind up in the hospital before next weekend's extravaganza, I got to make sure I don't get flamed up. Now, this one's for my mood. I may take one of these
as he
too.
takes an Advil.
An Advil and a Tylenol, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
That'll do the trick. Mm-hmm. Both of these guys actually have somewhat of golden hair. Christian's got that golden blonde, I guess you could say. Or what do they call it? California blonde? When you have
that's it.
Are you being facetious? Or? I think that's what they call it when you have bright blonde hair. It's California blonde or something like that because they get so much sun over there. Oh, Christian's busted open. He's got a little color. Is that what helped you feel better?
I'm taking it, yep. I'm
okay.
drink, but
You're taking it with
I'm
oxygen
close,
and
I'm
not
close.
liquid? Yeah, this was back in the TLC days where almost every match on the card had a stipulation to it. The past couple years, what we've seen from TLC is maybe one TLC match and one ladders match, if that, and maybe one tables.
yeah. This is post-2008 when blood was, or the art of generating blood was banned in WWE.
Well, the ladder actually hit him in the head.
Well, that's what I mean. You
Yeah.
can't always control when accidents happen in the
What happened was...
world of action and
Shelton
excitement.
Well, people are watching it with us, but some people... You guys can leave in the premiere chat. Are you guys watching this literally with us? Or are you just kind of... just watching...
You want to know the lousy thing? I'm not going to be home to watch it with them.
Well, technically neither will I, so...
Where are you going to be?
Here?
On December 19th?
Yeah, we're doing that whole weekend, right?
No.
Well, I don't know what the scheduling's like, but...
No, because I'm going to be returning from my
Oh, we just have Sunday?
mystery vanishing routine.
Are you going to Houston, Texas?
I will not, no, I'll be going
With
to the
Larson?
Sunshine State.
Are you going to Pittsburgh with Maria
No,
Davis?
I would love to go and visit Maria. She's kind of got a little Shelton Benjamin action going on herself there with the Moss.
Oh, gotta get out of the... Trainer got in the way there. Oh, he's still in
He's
the
like,
way.
all right. You put a Band-Aid on it, enough.
He's trying to get his spot in.
But again, highly trained athletes, fans, to just trust these men this close to the fans, it's such a high-risk position. Look at that man right there. That's, well,
Ooh.
almost landed on his neck, but that's a...
This referee, he kind of looks like Byron Saxton.
Yeah. I'm not going to say who I really thought, because his name doesn't deserve to be said on this program, but that's all right. I was disappointed. I was looking forward to typing away with the fans. I don't think I fly home until, because I remember the special guest of honor that'll be joining me for at least part of the trip, Linda Marati, was angry with the time booked to come home. I don't know, I either land at 9 or we leave at 9. As you know, with all the guests we've had coming to the studio, it's been hard for me to keep track of all the air information.
Especially after the wonderful day we had yesterday.
Yasdranovich street fight here at TLC. Oh, this is going to irk me now. I can't remember what time I get home.
Find out after.
I think I leave around 9 because I figured, well, you know what, at least if we want to, we can go to an amusement park during the day with the kid.
Well, yeah, but you'll probably be either flying or landing by the time this airs. So
Well, fans, if I can be with you at the tail end of it, I promise I'll try. Hopefully, Giuseppe Yasdranovich over here, Joe Scoops himself with the Sox, will be typing along in the premiere with you to make it all the more fun. So you know what? We will not be having a SmackDown review show that night because I won't be able to. I won't be here.
Then we could run it a little early.
So maybe we can run this at 9 then. So then, yeah.
People right now are probably thinking,
what the hell are these two talking about? But remember, folks, we're recording this on Sunday, December the 6th before NXT TakeOver. We have Matt here. We've had a long weekend with Savio and, the Nasty Boys. Really long weekend. And to give you guys more fun, because the watch-alongs have been pretty popular, and if you guys like them, we'll make them. And this is a fresh one for me. I like the opening match a lot already. I like both guys. They're both good human beings. When we had AJ Styles booked for the first time here for a Boston Wrestling MWF live event, we taped promos at a TNA house show, and Christian actually got in the promo and helped put AJ over. And, you know, I thought that said a lot about a guy to try and help AJ's non-TNA appearance when he didn't have to. There was no financial gain in it for him. Christian's a good egg. And Shelton, obviously, has been a friend for a long time. If you ever run into Shelton, please remind him that he is 6 years older than Dan Marati. He loves to hear that. He loves to hear that.
Oh.
Oh.
See this?
You have to have maybe Ken and Larson and have them in a ladder match of some kind.
What would be above the ring?
Well, a contract where one of them gets to remain in the live premieres and the other one is banned. Maybe that
Or
could
maybe
be...
Maria Davis is above the ring.
Maria could be the referee.
Oh, okay. She could be above the ring in a shark cage.
She probably, if she could, would go after them both, yeah.
Oh, boy. See, this is a physical ladder match. How many physical matches do you see today in WWE? It's kind of, you know what I mean, like pulled back, what their boundaries are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just look at it as Shelton debuted with us in the Boston Wrestling MWF. Less than a year after this, he was released, I think, in April of 10, so just a couple of months later. And I look at it and it's like, what is WWE thinking? Why do you get rid of an athlete like that in his prime that didn't have any substance abuse problems, didn't have an attitude problem, was a genuinely good human being, was one of the finest athletes in the history of the company? Why did they get rid of him?
And when he's called upon, he shows up. You know what I mean? Any matches he's been in, you know.
Well, Shelton and I have had many private chats over the years about certain things, and I wouldn't want to break his confidence, but I'm just going by my general thought as I watch this right now. And it's just, the things that are wrong with WWE at that point in time, Just take a big highlight magic marker and highlight it. Shelton Benjamin should have never been released. And he came to us very highly recommended. Within the WWE offices, as a matter of fact. They helped set it up. Even though he was gone from the company, they set the, well, they didn't exactly set the booking up. They set the communication up between Shelton and I. And was just thrilled to have him. Shelton, as you may or may not know, was part of the Boston Wrestling MWF event that took place at the TD Garden in Boston in February 2011. So quite a history with us.
Do you have any of your videos up on the Patreon or YouTube?
Yeah, maybe. I know we had the whole garden to ourselves, and we did an interview in an empty Boston garden together, sitting in the empty seats, which was really cool. Remember, we had a wonderful meal at the world-famous Kowloon Entertainment Dining Complex on Route 1 in Saugus that night.
I'll tell you, that takes a lot right there. It's just, how many guys can do that today? That balance, the strength of your legs to keep that ladder balance, not only just the ladder itself, but you staying on the ladder. Look at that. Can you do that?
No, even though I am much younger than Shelton, I could not do that.
Oh boy.
Shelton, after quite a while, has an official WWE shop t-shirt available.
He's chasing those Raw Tag Team Championships with Cedric Alexander.
Look at this. See a sign in there that says Monica. I wonder if it's for Tony's wife.
Sure it's not Johnny's piece?
Well, I didn't know that had a name, but...
I'm thinking of someone bringing a sign to a WWE event that says Johnny's piece. Nice power slam.
With authority.
From 3/4 up the ladder. And for this, I believe you got Matt Stryker, I almost said Adam Cole, Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler on commentary. What did you think of Matt Stryker on commentary? I wasn't a big fan.
He was very, very, very knowledgeable,
But
just
annoying.
obnoxious.
Yes.
Yep.
He had tons of information. I remember he would give you such good insight, but then he'd say a stupid line. I don't know if it was given to him, the lines, or what it was, but he would give you very good knowledge, but then he would just say something that you'd cringe at or just roll your eyes. And overall, not a big fan, but he did have his knowledge.
I think if they tried to have him just be him instead of a gimmick, I think he would have had a longer shelf life. One man's opinion.
I saw him pin someone at a bar in New York City last year, actually.
Well, aren't you effing lucky? Wow. I mean, if you could feel the jealousy running through my veins right now, that you saw Matt Stryker wrestle in a bar last year.
Look at Shelton hanging there.
I tell you this, Shelton is a great fan of professional wrestling. He is a South Carolina native, was a huge NWA fan. In between his two WWE stints, one year we went to, what was it? WrestleCon. And he saw Rock and Roll Express. I think he went and actually had his picture taken with Nikita Koloff. He was so pumped. Ooh.
Buckle bomb or a ladder bomb in the corner.
There you go. Or a combination of the two. He was so excited to see some of his favorites from when he was a kid, even though that was a long time ago, as he's 6 years older than me. But he was very excited to see those athletes.
He's 46?
Yeah.
Holy shit. He looks good for 46 right
now. Sure
does. He was 35. He doesn't look much, 35 in this.
Yeah, he doesn't look, he hasn't aged all that much from right here, other than the color of his hair.
You think you should go to gold?
No.
Would you do the beard gold too?
The carpet would have to match the drapes, yes. Yes.
We don't want to get into that discussion, but
we don't want to give Larson any ideas. That'll be the next thing.
I'm sure he's already having those ideas by himself.
But what a great opening match.
Oh, this,
I
This
bet
is
I'll
insane.
enjoy this more than anything tonight. Well, that wasn't exactly as smooth as probably
No, but the
they
way he
envisioned,
came down and still held him off the ladder
Yeah.
without dropping him.
It was unbelievable.
No, I'm being serious.
I am too. Maria Davis texted me. She says, Dan, it's been since October, LOL. I don't know what exactly that means, but...
Probably since she's been in the chat or something.
No, it hasn't been that long. Has it been
I don't know.
over a
Maybe
month?
since she talked to you. Maybe she meant November.
Oh, no, I made a joke with her. I said, I didn't know the Steelers brought you in as a free agent. She said, yeah, since October.
Oh.
Maria Davis, if you're not familiar, fans, is one of the great fans of Boston wrestling. Joining us for our live premieres Tuesday nights with Tony Atlas at 10 p.m., Thursday nights at 10 p.m. with Marty Jannetty as we continue the party that never ends. Friday night, Fabulous Fridays with John Cena Sr., his unique look and his unique hair. Look at that frog splash with the ladder that always somehow seems to break.
There's a nice frog splash off the top rope to the ladder that was on the ring and the announce table, kind of like a bridge going across. Shelton was laid across it, and Christian gave a nice frog splash through it. I'm not going to say what happens, but it's a nice finish.
It'll be interesting to see what's going to happen with Wednesday nights as we run out of material with Leo Rush. Should we continue having a Wednesday night special edition episode of Wrestling Insiders with rotating guests? Some have suggested Sundays, but I think the problem you run into with Sunday is that there are going to be pay-per-view weekends when we'd be forced to change our time slot.
And as Christian just retained the ECW championship.
Well, I'm talking about something people care about, not Christian retaining the ECW
we are
championship.
doing a TLC watch-along.
With that giant, massive championship belt.
Did you like that belt?
I always thought it was too big. It's enormous.
Even when Mark Henry had it, it was still big.
Too big.
But Christian retains the ECW championship in the opening match of TLC 2009.
Hell of an opening matchup. I applaud their efforts. I applaud the placement of the match. And like I said, two genuinely good guys in this sport. If I had the opportunity to, I would book them without hesitation. Maybe unlike certain people that you didn't enjoy having with us this weekend.
That's where he got busted open.
Yeah, I kind of figured that out.
And ECW died not long after this, I
No,
believe.
once they started that, the original version of NXT. Oof. Now, I don't know the entire lineup to this show as well as you do. Will we see an appearance from our Hall of Fame friend, Mr. USA? Is Mark Henry on this one?
I don't think so, because at this point in time...
Well, it would have been fun if we were.
At this point in time, Mark was on ECW, I believe. So if this was the
this was probably the one ECW match.
I mean, how many multiple, you know what I mean? They didn't have 2 or 3 ECW matches.
Ooh. I'm a hurting unit, folks. If you knew what I went through the day we taped the Nasty Boy episodes, if I ever do write that book that I've been talking about for a long time, I don't think it's going to get a whole chapter, but it's definitely going to get a mention.
If those loading dock walls can talk.
Or the floor, even.
Oh, a great opening match to 2009 TLC.
Look at that Mark taking the pictures at ringside with the big evil Undertaker hat on. How old was that hat in 2009? It had to be at least
5.
6 or 7 years. No, he was deadpan in 2004.
That 2009 to 2004?
Yeah.
That's 5 years.
Yeah, I know. So it couldn't be. They wouldn't have been selling that hat in 2004 because he was the dead man. They sold that big evil stuff when he was doing the biker. So you're talking at a minimum 6, and it's probably even older than that. The guy couldn't have got a free hat from the back in 6 years, or either that, I guess he really liked it. And this was, for a lot of fans that may or may not remember, this was the farewell kind of house show tour for Shawn Michaels, even though it certainly wasn't announced at this point in late 2009, headed into
2010, the Shawn Michaels match at WrestleMania 26 would wind up being the end of his career. But the last house show run they had, it was these two, Shawn and Triple H against Jericho and Big Show. They did it in Boston in January of 2010.
And they were the DX reunion.
And guess who was sitting in the front row that night?
This one right here?
No, for the Boston Garden House show.
Oh. You?
No, my free tickets were not in the front row that night. But I thank WWE for having me as their guest even then. No, it was actually the real HBK. The Hey Brother Kid. John Cena Sr. He was doing the crotch chop with them. I'll tell you this, San Antonio lit up beautiful for Christmas, at least that year.
And then here we go. We actually have another pay-per-view debut for Drew McIntyre.
Talk about a flashback, yeah.
Who now will defend his WWE Championship tomorrow night against AJ Styles in a tables, ladders, and chairs match, which will most likely be the main event. And right now you're seeing Drew McIntyre in his first pay-per-view ever. And now you fast forward to tomorrow night, 11 years later. He'll now be defending the WWE Championship in the main event of TLC.
If he is still champion at that point.
Oh.
Drew McIntyre.
He'll be champion.
Anything can happen in WWE.
Yeah. What is the Miz going to cash in?
I have no idea. Do you know that as a fact that this is his debut?
This is his debut, and I'm not going to say, but
why do you remember that?
Because he faces Kofi Kingston for the Intercontinental Championship.
Oh. Well, he's gained a couple of chest hairs over the past 11 years.
Look at that crowd. You won't see that now.
It's a pretty big set, that's for sure.
I loved when they did those custom sets for the pay-per-views, and now they just kind of do the same SmackDown set whenever they have a pay-per-view, and it's boring. Here comes, it's John Morrison. I guess the next year he faced Kofi Kingston. But either way, it was for the Intercontinental Championship. And it's funny because he's feuding with John Morrison and The Miz right now. And in his first pay-per-view,
a lot can be said about that.
In his first pay-per-view, he beats John Morrison for the Intercontinental Championship. And then you fast forward 11 years later, he's the WWE Champion, and Miz might cash in on him for all we know tomorrow night. If he hasn't cashed in already, which I highly doubt.
Now, John Morrison lost a lot of prime years in WWE, which was a shame. At one point, he was one of my favorites to watch, or amongst my favorites to watch on WWE TV. I preferred Johnny Nitro, but again, that's one man's opinion. And who do we have here now? Please.
Who's that?
Not even worth mentioning. Intercontinental Gold. I hate that belt that they have right there.
2010, I believe he faced Kofi Kingston, but they were both for the Intercontinental Championship. But the Future Shock DDT that he hits Morrison with in this match
is out of this world.
Is, as
and
we
I've
would
never
say,
even seen it.
How would we describe
Hellacious.
it? Hellacious.
Well, let's not spoil it for the fans at home that maybe have never seen it like I have.
It's just funny how you'll probably make some comment about it. I just think it's just interesting, you know? He's WWE Champion now. He's still feuding with Morrison. But I guess that's WWE. And then you look at the match before this. Shelton's fighting for the tag titles tomorrow night. And Christian's retired doing podcasts. So what do you think of this matchup?
Oh, it just started. I really don't have much of an opinion.
No, I'm saying
yet.
the men involved.
I just kind of shrugged my shoulders at McIntyre. I said, I liked Morrison an awful lot. I used to enjoy his matches. I thought he had a lot more personality as Johnny Nitro when he was with Melina, but, you know, they didn't call and ask me if I thought what route they should go, Morrison or Nitro. I thought the John Morrison thing was kind of hokey.
And he was still wearing the same ring gear, so it's not like they...
Same theme song, too, if I recall.
No, they came out...
Oh, no, they did change it. That's right.
They came out to Melina's theme song.
Yeah.
The one with the paparazzi and the pictures, and
And I thought that really made them look like stars. I thought when he came out to that, you're gonna hear it now, it was like indie stuff. I don't know. It was kind of a half Hurricane Rana right there. Kind of.
I don't know.
Half of a leg got him.
I like his theme song. I don't like it as a wrestling theme song, but I like it in general.
Yeah, you just like to hum along to it in the car.
What about Drew McIntyre's current theme song?
Well, you know I enjoyed the beat to that one quite a bit.
Just give the fans a little preview.
Only on the live ones.
Only on the live ones.
They
All
have to
right.
earn it.
Tomorrow night?
Maybe if we see a couple of super chats, maybe. Yeah, I lost my tooth, man. Yeah, I took the post down my kids in Georgia.
I know exactly.
Well, I have a feeling if I was at home watching this one on pay-per-view, usually how I could tell how much I was enjoying the show would be at what point I'd open the Boston Globe sports section. And that's a true story. That's why I'll always remember how much I hated the Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels Iron Man match from WrestleMania 12, because after about a half an hour of them exchanging headlocks, I just vividly remember opening up, the baseball season's starting in just a couple weeks. 5 minutes later, another chin lock. Oh, all right.
The Bruins are doing good.
All right. 5 minutes later, chin lock. All right. Now, a lot of people consider that match a classic. I hate to say it, since Pat Patterson helped put it together and he's recently departed, but I didn't like it at all. I think they would have been better off just having a traditional wrestling match and have it go an hour and then go into overtime. I think when you tell people with Iron Man matches that it's going to go an hour, I think people unintentionally get bored with it because they know how long it's going to be, and they just kind of tune out in a sense.
Or what I mentioned to you is do like a 2 out of 3 falls.
Or that.
You don't know when the falls are, well, even still in Iron Man matches, you don't know when the falls are going to come. But when you make it where someone has to get to a certain point, it kind of gets a little, say you have to get to 3 out of 5. Okay, when someone's at 2, you kind of put everything aside. You're like, all right, this could end at any point.
Yeah.
But if you're 45 minutes through the thing, you're like, shit, we still got 15 more minutes,
No, I've never been a fan of Iron Man matches.
Or I like what they've done recently is they do the half-hour one instead of the hour.
I don't like those either.
It's better than the hour.
But you know what? It should be booked for the hour. Even if you don't go an hour, it should be promoted and presented as the potential of it going an hour.
That's why I would do the 2 out of 3 falls, and you don't know,
Well, just have it, unless they're going to do what they did with the Shawn and Brett match, just have it go 40 minutes. Or
Yeah,
something
just do a
like
straight
that.
match and
Just
just-
have a good lengthy match that's not guaranteed to be an hour, so people know, okay, I can change the channel to watch a half an hour of a football game and come back to this, and it still won't be anywhere over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think
Because it's not like the match is going to end a half hour in.
you give the people too much opportunity to lose interest. You give people too much opportunity to do other things when they know you're going to be guaranteed to have this match in the ring 60 minutes later. Again, one man's opinion,
That's like Raw now. When you announce the main event at the beginning of the show, the first thing people say is, oh, the rest is going to be bullshit. I'll tune back in at 10:30. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they always announce it in the first segment of the show. Tonight's main event is boom.
Well, my phone is going off again. I have to check in.
It is?
Yeah.
I didn't even notice.
One of our dear friends here, DB.
I wasn't really a fan of when they did. It was all right, but wasn't great. Was when they did Vince McMahon handpicked Drew McIntyre. I thought that was a little. Even when I was a kid, it adds credibility right away. But I thought as a kid, I was like, even when I was a kid, I thought it was kind of just whatever, I think if he had not a lot of backing, but just a little bit, that would have been better. But before this, if you watch the Drew McIntyre documentary, he wasn't the biggest guy, you know, especially in America. He was only doing shows over in Scotland. He wasn't really doing anything over here. So I thought it was kind of, you know, adds credibility, but at the same time, people are like, we still don't know who he is. Like, yeah, Vince McMahon picked him, but at the same time, you're like, but who is he, you know?
I wasn't sold on Drew McIntyre then. I'm not 100% sold on Drew McIntyre now. My only point in 2020 continues to be that I don't think the man should have lost and should continue not to lose until they get to the point where they have fans in the arenas to get that natural instant reaction. Not social media, instant in-arena reaction. That used to be very, very important. I know it was quite a while ago, but when I was with WWF at the time in 2000 and 2001, that was very, very, very important in the decision-making process, the live fan reaction. Granted, you didn't have Facebook or Twitter or even MySpace at that point, but...
Do you think he would get a reaction today, in your opinion?
To warrant the push that he's got, I don't think so.
10 being the biggest pop ever and 1 being people are on their phones. What do you think it would be at?
Where McIntyre is right now?
His pop when he comes out. Is it 10, the building shakes?
If there were fans right now?
If there were fans.
6 or a 7.
I was about to say the same thing. I think it would be good for like a month or 2 or 3, and then it would kind of, you know, that's...
I guarantee you this, it wouldn't be what it was after he lost the title to Orton. If it would have been at a 7, you're probably looking at a 6 or a 5.
That's the thing with fans now, is when you do so many title changes, they get bored quickly. Because you go from having really long reigns with the title back in the day, and now you have guys hold the title for sometimes even a week, and then they lose it, you know? I mean, look at Orton's reign. He won it at Hell in a Cell, and 3 weeks later, he loses it on Raw, you know? Yeah.
I'm glad I have another Monster Energy drink in the refrigerator. I have a feeling I could need it by the end of the night, as these two men go to war for the Intercontinental Championship. One of probably what's about 16 title matches on this show where they have the 3 brands, but...
I believe there was 8 matches on this show.
8? Okay, that's not bad.
At the most 9, but I knew it was...
Something like that.
Oh, that was... I hate that finish. That finish either misses badly like that, or...
Look at the referee leaving the ring.
That finish...
He wanted to make sure he got the call right.
That finish either hits perfectly and looks really good, or it misses badly. It never has an in-between where it looks okay. You know what I mean? The Starship Pain? Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean, yeah.
I'm being serious?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, you know how some people's moves, they hit it and it looks okay, like in the middle? But his is just, it's so hit or miss. You know, oh, he's taking off the belt. He means business. Oh, an eye poke from McIntyre.
I think in that instance, in that one time
Watch this future
move
shot.
right there, I think McIntyre was too close to the ropes.
Right
He didn't
there.
give himself enough room to spring out.
1, 2, 3.
And we have a new Intercontinental Champion here at TLC.
In his pay-per-view debut, you see
Wow.
McIntyre's pay-per-view debut and Sheamus. As you've seen on WWE TV lately, they've been kind of friendly with each other. They've been friends for a while. They made their pay-per-view debuts here, TLC 2009, on the same night. And I'm not going to spoil what happens with Sheamus later in the show. I mean, it's an old show, so people could look it up.
They could go on Wikipedia if they wanted to. but-
Or they probably just remember it from when they watched it. But I still won't spoil it for the people that haven't seen it or forgot. But new Intercontinental Champion Drew McIntyre, as he's been tag team champion. I think the only thing he has left become a Grand Slam is United States Championship, and WWE loves giving people those Grand Slam champion labels, so I guarantee you, whether it's in 2021 or 2022, I guarantee he'll be winning that United States Championship soon, because they love to just...
He was the Universal Champion too?
All you need is You need one world title, both of the mid-cards, and a tag team championship. That's their
I thought it was World, Universal, Intercontinental, and U.S. Or I guess they just make it up as they go along.
Tag team, United States, Intercontinental, and one world title.
I don't know. We might have to Google that one, fans. Or again, maybe it depends on the week.
No, it's... Because I remember when they had Dean Ambrose become... The past couple years, they've had Dean Ambrose become Grand Slam.
He loves to make that face.
Seth Rollins
He still does it now. Seth Rollins?
Well, yeah, because their Grand Slam is Intercontinental, U.S., one of the world titles, and then the tag team.
Oh, wait, we just heard a man that loves Saturday Night, Marty Jannetty. Let's see what he has to say.
What do you say? Is that what he said? I don't know by that face you're making what that means.
I'll have to tell you one of these things.
Look who it is.
Vinnie Mac, that red nose.
Oh, here comes Josh Matthews, current Impact commentator, who I can't stand, and you can tell he's been trained well by Michael Cole because he sounds and acts exactly like Michael Cole in the Impact broadcast. Because, have you listened to Impact commentary?
No.
Okay, well. A lot of people say the same thing about Matthews. And they must have took something out, because they went from Drew McIntyre walking up the ramp with the title to him talking to Vince McMahon like that. So I have a feeling that something in the show was taken out, because... Oh, see, look at this. Sheamus and Drew McIntyre, buddies now, and they might even have a match at the Royal Rumble for the WWE Championship.
I hope the fans will be let in so I can be there.
Maybe even WrestleMania, depending on Braun Strowman's knee injury. Because if Braun Strowman's knee injury is worse than people think, we might be seeing Sheamus and Drew McIntyre at the Rumble. Or if AJ Styles can take the title tomorrow night.
Yeah.
As you text ferociously over there.
Well, Marty and I are discussing some very important things. Good long time, well, not a long time close person.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, geez.
Mickie James.
Good. I'm glad I can text. Still
I believe she faces Michelle McCool, Undertaker's wife. Not at this time, though. They got married in 2010. Mickie James. You know what they almost did this summer with her and Chelsea Green?
I have no idea.
They tried to do that thing where Chelsea Green was obsessed with Mickie James like they did with Trish Stratus.
That would have got over well.
But they never did it. So, which I'm glad. Because they just try to do that too many times. Michelle McCool. I believe it's for not the Divas, but the Women's Championship. There you go. The Old Women's Championship. What did you think of the women's title?
Is that the butterfly one? Oh, no. That was a nice-looking belt. That was what I would call the Sable belt, I think, is around the time they introduced that one in '98 when her and Jackie Moore were, I think, the only two wrestling women they had at that point.
Michelle McCool going up against Mickie James for the women's title. Michelle McCool is accompanied to the ring by Layla. What do you think of McCool and James? I thought McCool... You know who Michelle McCool reminds me of? I know you're going to roll your eyes or whatever. Is Charlotte. Tall, blonde hair.
To some degree. Certainly not the athlete that Charlotte
look at
is.
That. Hang on. Like body type, that right there. Doesn't that kind of look like Charlotte? Tall, lanky, blonde hair.
To some extent.
Athletic, skinny. You know, good athletic build. You know.
I think Michelle McCool was actually a very good athlete. I just don't think she ever actually took to professional wrestling all that well.
And then when she, I think she held the record. She held the record for I think a year or two and most eliminations in the Women's Royal Rumble.
Wow. Considering there's been, what, 2 of them? 3 of them?
3.
Well,
that's why I said...
That's quite a record to hold.
But she did that in the first year, the first match. I think she eliminated 5 people, and that was the record. I think it's 7 now by Nia Jax.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, back to the action here in the ring. We're out of the ring, I guess.
I like that woman's, we can go back to it, the women's title. I didn't like the Divas title. I thought that was...
Was that the one that looked like a big butterfly?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't like that.
I thought that was a little... The thing was, it's great to sell to little girls. That little... The
I'm sure they sold about 6 of those.
No, I'm being serious.
I am too.
No, I'm just saying that it appeals to the younger girls that...
I just don't know how many younger girls there are that watch pro wrestling, has been my point all along about the...
But I'm saying if... I'm going to sound kind of weird, but if I was a little girl, I'd rather want the pink one with the butterfly than the one that actually looks like almost like a men's title.
I agree with you as far as that goes. I just don't think there's...
Oh, I'm not saying they sold...
I don't think, for an example, I've ever been in a store when you've seen people looking at the wrestling action figures and toys and so on. I can't think of a time I've ever seen a little girl looking at them.
No, I'm not saying they sold millions of them. I'm just saying from a marketing
I think they sold 6.
I'm saying from a marketing aspect, if for a women's division, I'd rather have the pink one with the butterfly. That would be more
appealing to the females.
Yes.
Now, I like the top that Layla has on there, Piggy James.
Yeah, they were doing that thing where she was fat and came from the farm. She's from Virginia, Richmond.
Oh, she comes from a farm.
That's what I said, Richmond, Virginia. She lives on the farm. She's actually a country singer now.
Oh, yeah.
I know you love the country music.
Yeah, she sang some of her TNA theme songs that were a real hit. But
do you think she was a good wrestler? Or is? I mean, she's still kind of going
for
now.
the women's division, one of the better ones.
Oh, boy. These two put on, I don't like saying it this way, but for women's matches, they put on, you know what I mean?
It's like Steamboat and Flair from '89. Only instead of J.J. Dillon at ringside, you have someone wearing a Piggy James tank top. Do you think maybe for our friend that runs Memorial Hall down the street, we could call her Piggy Broda? Kathy Piggott Broder? I could see that fit.
What did you call her the other day?
The executive director of Memorial Hall. Oh, okay. Piggy Broda. Next time Quincy has to run down with some paperwork for me, which I'm sure she appreciates, so maybe we could get him a Piggy Broda t-shirt to wear.
Oh, boy. I don't think you'd hear the end of that one.
There it is.
Who did Layla date? I'm trying to think of who she dated. It was...
I'll bite my tongue.
Wasn't it someone that was with someone, if you know what I mean?
I think Layla was acquainted with several members of the fraternity at different times.
Well,
I believe she won the first Divas competition.
She did. I know
she had curly hair at that point.
Yeah.
And I remember they'd play, when they got rid of someone, they'd play that song Move Along as Jim Ross was trying to pitch what was going on later in the show. And he'd sit there with that look on his face. No, and it's like, this is just so wrong for what it is we're trying to sell, but he was a company man that did his job anyway.
And then Mickie James had a run-in with, not Cena Sr., but Little Johnny.
Well, you never know.
Well,
maybe Cena Sr. too.
At the same time?
She doesn't have to discriminate. No, I don't think it was at the same time. Mickey's very friendly.
I like how off track we get on these shows. We go from talking about wrestling to both the Johnnies with Mickie James. Oh, boy.
I know she calls him Mr. C nowadays.
Like Mrs. C down the street. Nice backbreaker.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Delicious.
That's what I mean. I mean, you know what? Here's my problem with this. Is this the worst women's match I've ever seen? No. But you're taking away a spot from what could be a very good men's match. For what?
To be PC.
At least they only had one of them. Oh my God! At least they only had one of them At least they only had one women's match generally on a pay-per-view back then. But this is...
And then I believe the year after this is when they did Beth Phoenix and Natalya versus Michelle McCool and Layla in a tables match.
one of my favorites.
And that was the match where the table didn't break. I would
guess
ask
they needed Nia Jax at that point.
Oh, boy.
The highlight of this match to me is the Piggy James top that Layla has on. I can imagine how many fans in San Antonio have got up to enjoy a nice refreshment.
In the third match.
Or the souvenir stand.
It's only the third match, and
Well, that's all right. Generally, the women's match is when...
See, that looked good.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Mickie James is one of the better females they've had since they really started to... Oh, my God. Since they started to push the women's division.
Looks like Cecil and Puppet at the studio. Here we go.
Shades of Luthez and Steve Austin on that one.
Shades of... It's like a spitting image.
Looks like she got that top at some Native American gift shop up in northern New Hampshire or something.
Like Tatanka.
We wouldn't want to insult our good friend, the Native American Tatanka, part of the 9th annual Paul Bearer Holiday Headlocks Toy Drive. Fans, if you are watching along but maybe need a little break in another tab on your computer, head on over to BostonWrestling.com. Find out about efforts to honor the memory of Paul Bearer and update Santa Claus's GPS.
Oh.
We are just now, 6 days away from the big day? Don't get too excited now.
Whoa, geez, that could have ended bad.
Yeah, that could really...
How's the
I was worried for a minute. Well...
Nice back kick. Well, she took one. See, that's a nice false finish right there.
Yeah, I thought it was over.
No, I'm being serious.
I was too. Yeah, unbelievable. Looks like Michelle McCool retains the women's championship.
Well, what would you rate that match?
Yeah, three.
I was
maybe a 4.
Sometimes me and you, we just have. If you guys watch our Raw and NXT and SmackDown shows, we usually have the same rating, 1 through 10, and you're usually spot on with the viewership guesses.
Yeah, what would you have rated this?
3. I just.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
I don't know about that finish, but...
She thought she had a little Frank Goodish in her, the late Bruiser Brody, trying to take off Mickey's head with one of those kicks. Luckily, Layla recovered from the thrust kick to the midsection and the boot to the face.
Piggy James.
I want to see the Piggy Broda tank top. Well, what do we have coming up next on TLC?
All right, we got
state-of-the-art selling going on right now. This is a beautiful city, San Antonio, Texas. I recommend San Antonio as a place to visit in your lifetime if you've never been, whether it be for a live wrestling event once fans are allowed into big events again, or for just a general vacation. I enjoyed the time I spent in San Antonio wrestling-wise over the years. I was trying to think earlier when they showed the Christmas decorations just how long it's been since I've been to San Antonio, and it actually might have been during the time I was affiliated with WWF. And that's quite a long time, but San Antonio is a nice city. We've got the WWE Championship match going on 4th early in the night.
Sheamus making his pay-per-view debut in a tables match, as he just mentioned, for the WWE Championship, which is held by John Cena, not John Cena Sr. as we saw last night, but Little John Cena. Now, Sheamus, I believe, he didn't have much doing before this match.
And he hasn't had much doing since, but... It's only been 11 years.
He's actually done a lot. You know? WWE Championship, multiple wins.
Yeah, but has he ever done anything that's important?
No. I'm just
Has
saying.
he ever done anything that said to the fans, this is a top-tier main event guy? Right now, you could see Sheamus as someone occasionally in a main event. You could see Sheamus as a guy that's in the opening contest. You know what I mean? He never established himself as a top-tier guy. Not that that's his complete doing, but...
He doesn't put on amazing matches, but...
No. That's a very good way to put it.
No, but I'm just saying, he looks like he can kick someone's ass, and he looks like, even in his matches, it looks like he hurts people. And that's what is needed nowadays. You don't have people like him just walking around backstage that are 6'5", 270.
He has physical credibility.
Yes, and he looks real when he's in the ring.
Yeah. Not like Paul Bearer at Survivor Series.
But he's come a long way. But I'm just...
Still got a long way to go, but he's come a long way.
On Money in the Bank, Royal Rumble, King of the Ring.
And still, at the end of the day, nobody cares.
I'm just saying, but look at his resume. I mean, I know...
No, an impressive resume, but at the end of the day, if Sheamus vanished tomorrow and never came back, I don't think anyone would really care.
But he did all that in about 5 years, 5.5. I mean, how many people have done that much in 5.5 years? You know what I mean? Mark Cuban, that was... As a kid, I liked it when they had the special guest every week, when they had the Muppets.
I wasn't a fan of that.
Well, you were a little older, so you had more perspective. But I was just a kid that liked seeing Snoop Dogg being the special guest of Raw. But
Snoop Dogg?
But now looking back on it, it was dumb. But when you're a kid, you love it, you know? It's getting hellacious. Oh, this is when Cuban took the hit.
Good friend of Mr. Wonderful.
One of the sharks on Shark Tank.
I wonder if he's ever had any relations with Barbara Corcoran.
Do you think so?
Perhaps. Barbara likes to wear those tight little outfits on the Shark Tank show.
Is Barbara like an older Cupcakes?
I've never seen Barbara dance. I don't know.
How much you think they gave Cuban to take that bump?
Not much.
You think they... I wonder if he brought it up to them. Can I get put through a table by Sheamus?
Well, I'm a big wrestling fan, but I don't... Almost all of those celebrities were there to pitch something. I don't know for certain, but I'm sure several of them were free. Outside of, their transportation and a very nice hotel and a limousine and things like that.
And Uno's.
Well, maybe. Just don't forget the appetizer.
Again, there was a lot.
Now, to show, again, maybe how little I paid attention, but this would be me reading the newspaper, yeah. I thought Sheamus went into this pay-per-view as the champion, so I am mistaken.
No, this was his pay-per-view debut.
Well, he still could have gone in as the champion.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Sheamus vows victory over in the Irish Voice, one of the few newspapers I subscribed to back in 2009.
This was another match that had a good finish. I know you're going to roll your eyes or whatever it is, but this pay-per-view had a lot of good finishes in my opinion, but even now I thought, as a kid and still now, I thought the finishes to a couple matches here were good, other than the ones they have now that are all disqualifications or roll-ups or distractions or a combination of a few of them.
Do you think Vicente Reyes' sock almost looks kind of like a fruit roll-up?
That's what I said to you before.
Oh, did you say? Okay.
Remember I said that, and then I said I had fruit roll-ups in my room?
I remember we discussed them in the past.
Yeah.
But I didn't know it was about Vicente Reyes' manhood. I thought it was more about all the roll-ups on WWE television in 2020.
I think it was a mix of both. John Cena. A man that held the WWE Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship in 2009.
It was a big year for him, I guess.
Yeah. Then in the next year, he went on to WrestleMania to beat Batista for the WWE.
Big Dave Batista.
For the WWE Championship.
That's what I mean. Even back then, first-class, state-of-the-art video production. I always applaud the company for that. Whether you enjoy the wrestling, whether you hate the wrestling, or are somewhere in between, you can't deny state-of-the-art production. I think if other sports could catch up to how WWE does certain things, I think it would only enhance their potential to gain younger demographics. One man's opinion.
I just think as sports fans really don't give a fuck.
You can curse. It's Saturday night.
Don't give a fuck about the presentation. They just want to see the sports. You know what I mean?
I agree with you to that to some point, but again, you're talking about trying to allure, if you're talking about trying to bring new, younger fans into, I mean, imagine if baseball, which is having a problem with,
baseball.
I guess, new
Don't even get me started about the MLB.
Youth involvement. I think maybe if you had music and lights and cool things like that, maybe you'd have a better shot at getting and holding younger people's attention.
When you go to the Celtics games, what do they do before the game starts?
I don't think the NBA is hurting as far as trying to gain new young fans. I think that's the only sport that isn't really hurting as far as attracting new young fans.
Are you talking about their viewership is garbage, NBA. They have, when you talk about viewership for the top four, NBA has the lowest.
Absolutely not. You're trying to tell me that the NBA is watched less than hockey?
Yes, it does.
No,
it is.
no.
Look it up on your phone. What has the lowest viewership of the top
I just
four?
got a text message from Marty Jannetty. I'm going to ask him and see if he...
The last game of the NBA Finals did 5 million viewers. And that was game 6 of the NBA Finals. And that did 5 million viewers. And as we were talking about before, the Steelers-Ravens game at 3:30 on a Wednesday got 12 million people. And game 6 of the NBA Finals can't even get 6 million people. They did half of that, and it was the NBA Finals. They get nobody. And that's why the NBA ticket value has gone down. Their viewership has gone down. Attendance is down. They have record lows in everything. Social medias, they have just... Ever since 2010, I believe, the NBA numbers have been going down and down and down and down.
Yeah, let's see what Marty has to say.
And it's the opposite for the NHL, too. The NHL, they've had their numbers go up and up and up and up over the years. Even their attendance, I think it's the Blackhawks. They averaged, I think, 105% capacity for their games because they were adding standing room only for a bunch of their games, and they were overselling the arena. They were having people stand, behind the sections and watch the game. Just NBA is not what it used to be in the 80s and 90s where you were excited to go to a game and then there were superstars. Now it's just, all they want is the money. They don't play to play. NBA is probably the biggest crybaby sport, I think. Next is probably NFL. But hockey's gotten bigger. I don't know what sparked the hockey phase in America now, but it's getting more and more popular right now. Even for me, I really didn't like hockey about 3 years ago, and then all of a sudden I kind of got into it.
I think hockey's fun to go to see live. It's never been able to hold my attention on television. Outside of maybe a couple of times when the Bruins were in the Stanley Cup.
But even the NBA, not even just everything else, but they've lost money over the past couple years. It's just, everybody's lost interest in it. Now, NFL will always be the highest. NFL, MLB, then NHL, then NBA. That's what it is now. Maybe it'll change soon. Maybe people will find interest in basketball again, but I think we're now in the crybaby era of not just NBA, but almost every sport, except for hockey. You don't see a lot of complaining in hockey. But as this Sheamus and Cena matchup, I'm surprised they trusted Sheamus so early to work a big program with Cena. You know, I don't know, because Edge was out at this time with the torn Achilles, because he returned at the Rumble a month after this.
Big night.
To win, and then he moved on to lose to Chris Jericho for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 26.
He gave it his all.
I
Is he
really
looking for
don't
a
understand.
kendo stick?
And then that was it.
Were kendo sticks under the ring for every match at this point?
After 2008, they were.
They were. No, why did the kendo stick revolution begin in 2008? Was there a reason?
They got
don't
rid of all
remember.
the metal stuff. Remember, they used to have the garbage cans, the pans, all that type of stuff, the spikes and stuff like that. The lead
Spikes?
Remember, they'd have like I'm trying to think. Occasionally, someone would find a spike under there and they'd put it on someone's forehead. I don't know if that was back in the 90s or what it was. It must have been an ECW thing back in the day.
A spike? I don't. Unless you're describing it wrong, I don't have no idea what you're talking about. A spike?
Like a metal.
Can you think of a match, an example of it?
I think Foley and Edge used it in their WrestleMania match. What was that, 2006?
I'd have to go back and look. Yeah, it was WrestleMania 22 in 2006.
Chicago.
I remember they used barbed wire, but I don't remember a spike. I'm kind of interested to see what you mean.
But they would have more dangerous objects, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Back when it was more dangerous, I guess you could say. But then they moved to just the basic stuff. A couple
Like
chairs.
kendo sticks.
Just tables, ladders, and chairs and kendo sticks. You don't really see the more dangerous stuff.
The guy with the big evil Undertaker hat on getting the pictures. Marty's really enjoying his text. Oh, wait, no, Vicente Ray. Maybe he heard us talking about his fruit roll-up. Let's see. How did the weekend go? Oh, boy.
I think you could write a book just on this weekend.
Stories for you. We're doing a watch-along of TLC. What year was this, 09?
09.
09. To run TLC weekend.
Now, if
And
you
we
guys
just-
are, as we're about halfway through the show right now, what do you guys think of it so far? I mean, I believe we've seen one title change so far, with Drew McIntyre winning the title.
Even though we have the volume almost on low, I heard Jerry Lawler's phony-sounding squeal when he gets overly excited.
He was one of them that kind of dipped once they went PG, because he's not a PG.
I think he dipped, honestly, from when he left in 01 and then came back when WWF got rid of his wife.
What year did he come back?
He came back later the same year, but just
okay.
whatever. He to me, he was just never as effective, or he was never the same. He left in February of 01, as I remember. I was there when they canned her. And then, you know, as a dutiful husband, certainly something that Aleister Black didn't do. He stood by his woman. He left with her, and the night after Survivor Series, on a night of big returns when they rebooted the company after they absolutely killed WCW off, back came the King on a very loaded Monday Night Raw in November of 2001. I liked the Paul Heyman and Jim Ross duo more than Ross and the King. That's one man's opinion.
Heyman was someone that I think should have done more commentary than what they used him for, but as you say, one man's opinion.
For those that are missing Dave Carter tonight, He says he'll be with us live for TLC tomorrow night. The man in the center table. That remains to be seen.
Maybe he's under the table.
Maybe he's under the table.
Not like Andre, though.
And just a couple of kendo sticks.
And some Lysol.
And some Lysol. Oh, I tell you, fans, the weekend we are taping this is one. Hopefully, was I able to brush my hair at all?
I didn't even want to say what you said to me after.
Well, I'm asking about now.
Yeah, you brushed it before.
But I'm talking about now. Is it at least somewhat presentable?
Yeah.
All right, because I didn't have any of my gimmicks, my hairspray or gel or anything. I went through mental hell this weekend, folks. And I look at, and as the man that some here at the studio call the French douchebag, he said to me, today was the worst he's ever seen me as far as my moving goes, so I'm in a lot of pain. But we're still having a lot of fun here during the TLC 2009 watch-along. Late night Saturday, December the 19th. Don't forget, fans, as we wrap up this week, the 9th annual Paul Bearer Holiday Headlocks Toy Drive Cyber Fan Fest, which you can still be a part of, heading over to bostonwrestling.com. It's going to be a big TLC Sunday. In addition to our live watch-along for the pay-per-view, we're going to have a special edition of Wrestling Insiders with former WWE Cruiserweight Champion TJP, a man I feel is one of the finest in-ring competitors in recent times. He may not have had a long, big run in WWE, but just an exceptional athlete, one of my favorites to watch bell to bell, a man that's competed here in Boston Wrestling and the MWF. So it's going to be, from what I have the memory to say, is a very good, in-depth, extensive interview. And maybe TJ will be back. Who knows? I don't know about Jens Dranovitz, but well, I'd like to see John Cena Sr. do that at Memorial Hall. Come here, brother.
Maybe we should do John Cena Sr. versus Finlay. Recreate this match.
Well, we could have had that match, actually, at one point. I think John Cena Sr. quit in the ring the night of Finlay's MWF in-ring debut at Memorial Hall. Him and Paul Bearer had a verbal showdown in the middle of the ring, and Johnny quit the company. He didn't even go back to the locker room. He just walked out the front door. The fans couldn't believe it. And Paul Bearer started going, na 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 na, na 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 na, hey, 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 goodbye.
Is that how he did it?
That's how he did it. He was going waving his hand. He had a little fun with it. And Johnny had enough. One of his exoduses from the Millennium Wrestling Federation. That was a fun night.
What about Margot?
Who?
Margot.
I think Margot wasn't even a thought in his loins at that point. Was Maurice around at that point? Oh yeah, Maurice would have been in WWE at that point, but I don't know. That would have been March of 2012.
I don't think she was wrestling at that time.
I know she was with little Ted DiBiase Jr., at least managing him around before that.
That was in like 2010.
Yeah, so she was around the company in that point. I don't know if Margot was attending WrestleMania weekends to see Johnny, or other things with Johnny, but...
Was it in The Observer?
I think it was pwinsider.com.
Wow.
Na 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 na. Hey, 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 goodbye.
You do that perfectly.
Oh, Johnny, he didn't go back to the locker room. He just walked out the front door. He had enough.
When did he come back?
I think it's Soul Survivor 9, which would have been... Yes, because it was the weekend that Paul Bearer died. And he took members of the Uprising faction and members of Paul Bearer's Trifecta of Terror and made them one large group that took out X-Pac and Carlito after Carlito became the Millennium Wrestling Federation heavyweight champion, if I recall.
Oh, here we go. He's going to do what he did to Mark Cuban.
Hey, 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 goodbye.
Oh.
I don't remember how he was going to be involved in that event.
Who?
Paul Bearer.
Maybe they were
He
going
was booked for it, but then remember he passed away the Tuesday before the event. I don't remember how that, I'd have to go back into my notes, because one thing about me is I usually save the email drafts of when we put the events together, and I can't remember off the top of my head what Paul Bearer was going to do that night. I don't, but your good friend Bobby Lashley was there.
Who?
Bobby Lashley.
What's his name?
Well, you may have a different name for Bobby, but my good friend Bobby Lashley competed in the Millennium Wrestling Federation. Carlito, as we know, at X-Pac. Superfly Jimmy Snooker Appreciation Night.
Wow.
And I say this, the great thing about Jimmy that night was, I think that was the last time I ever saw Jimmy before he passed, and it was in probably the best condition I have ever seen Jimmy, not physically, but mentally. I had met Jimmy for the first time working with Tony Rumble back in 1994, and he was indeed a medicine man, but 19 years later, in 2013, I mean, he was well-spoken. He had clarity. I remember I brought baby Marty to him, and he really was, my God. He wasn't a baby, but he was 7 years old at that point, and he wanted to meet Jimmy, but he was a little shy. So I brought him up to him, and he had a question. He actually said, you know, where was your first match? And he said, Hawaii, brother. And I figured he was just giving him it's the first thing that came to mind, but it was the truth. That's where his first match took place, was in Hawaii, and I was impressed that Jimmy was that with it. He did a Q&A in the ring.
You said, how are you, brother?
No, Hawaii. Unless
says,
maybe I didn't hear it right. Maybe that's what he said. Maybe he really was out of it. But no, Jimmy really was. That was the best I'd ever seen Jimmy. Jimmy was one of the headliners of our very first MWF Live event back in September of 2001. Just a couple of weeks after 9/11, which turned into a complete and utter disaster. But
which part? 9/11 or the event?
the both. It was a 9/11 for me.
Oh, all right. Well, that's
for our first night. Big event, had a lot of momentum headed into it, and then the world just kind of sat still, depressed and still a little scared after everything that happened in New York and other parts of the country on 9/11.
Well, speaking of sitting still, Sheamus is sitting still on the top rope right now as John Cena is trying to AA him through the table. So going back and forth here. Whoa, Sheamus. That's wedged up there. Here we go.
Not one of John's better matches here tonight at TLC 2009.
Sheamus is way too new. They had no chemistry, I don't think. It's just, that's why I said it's a lot of trust for Sheamus to do something like this. I thought he was okay for his first time, doing something big or much of anything in WWE.
Yeah, shades of Cowboy Bob Orton.
Well,
the Superplex.
Here we go. And there it is. Sheamus wins the WWE Championship and his pay-per-view debut in WWE. Him and his buddy Drew McIntyre both win titles in their first ever pay-per-views with WWE. The Intercontinental Championship for McIntyre and the WWE Championship for Sheamus, but
hence why he didn't get over.
But then we see, I believe, I'm trying to think, I know Batista wins the WWE Championship at Elimination Chamber.
Yeah.
I got it. Sheamus wins it, or loses it at Elimination Chamber, something like. I know
You're
Cena,
spoiling it for future watch-alongs.
Yeah, I know John Cena wins it, the Elimination Chamber match for the WWE Championship in February is when they did it, I believe. But then that's when Vince came out and said, you have one more person to beat tonight. And then Batista came out, they raised the chamber, Batista beat Cena, and that set up their WWE Championship match at WrestleMania. Kind of an interesting way to do that. as we see.
As we wait for the next match to begin.
As I was about to say, we'll see Batista later in this pay-per-view as he faces The Undertaker for the World Heavyweight Championship in a chairs match, which we see a run-in from someone I don't know if you've used here. I don't know 100%, but Teddy Long, I think you've said you've wanted him in the studio.
Out of the MWF alumni. Joined us at Memorial Hall for a live event when he was the SmackDown General Manager.
That's right. I remember you telling me that.
Well, it was a big night for Sheamus as we continue to await what is yet to come here at TLC 09. And TLC 2020 tomorrow night live at, I believe, 7 p.m.
7 p.m.
If you're watching the premiere, we'll be going live with the extravaganza itself, WWE's final pay-per-view offering of the year 2020. Expect the unexpected.
I don't think Sheamus has a match tomorrow.
That's a shame. He'll have his little hat on, though.
Sheamus doesn't have. Well, you know John Cena.
Well, those disappointed youngins.
You know John Cena doesn't have a match tomorrow night. He's probably shooting a movie somewhere.
And John Cena Sr. is shooting on Friday nights on Wrestling Insider's Fabulous Fridays, 10 p.m. after SmackDown every week, and maybe doing a little shooting with Margot. On a table. Who knows? I don't know if they've ever gone through one, but I hope not.
Depends on what they're into.
But maybe I could see Johnny on the table with Margot. Maybe in a chair. I don't think the ladder would work for either one of them all that well, but...
Step ladder? Oh, boy.
I think I heard the phone buzz. Let's see if we have any interesting information from the man that loves to party. Here he is again, Marty Jannetty. I'll check out Beefers.
Look at the kids crying that Cena lost. I'll tell you. Look at Cena. He put a piece of the table in his pocket to keep a memory of it that he lost. Maybe a little motivation to get the title back, which he later did. Then lost. And then won back again. Did you like the year 2009? Not life, but WWE. Remember these videos? Not to get you off track, but I had surgery 5 times in my left knee.
You did, or are they talking about
that's
the promo?
what Rey Mysterio
right.
said in the video. 5 times in my left knee, yeah. I used to know this word for word, but they don't run these videos anymore. Where they would say, don't try this at home.
Please do not try this at home.
Please.
2009, from what I remember, was an all right year. I think the in-ring, it was one of just a lot of what I could say now. The in-ring was all right. It's just a lot of repetitive things. I did not see most of the big shows in 2009 just because I didn't care.
Believe it or not.
And at that point, I don't even know if you realize this, but Sunday night was the only night of the week I was here at the studio. So everything I would get done in the course of the week generally had to be done on Sunday night. So
were you as busy as you are now with everybody in?
No, we didn't have the certainly we didn't utilize the internet the way we do now. So it was a different. We were generally producing one MWF wrestling themed program a week with occasional talk shows. General rule of thumb, not always. Sometimes there was more than one day a week, but generally it was just Sunday night.
Look, we both got our legs going.
What do you mean? Oh, you're tapping too?
Yeah.
Switchfoot, Bullet Soul, one of my favorite songs. And Vicente Ray Wasco. Let's see what he has to say with his sock.
Here we go, the next matchup. Batista versus The Undertaker in a chairs match.
What the hell? Don't spoil it for me, but I'm trying to think of what might have gone. Oh, DX. What went on last?
This
was an excellent feud.
I like this. They had Batista turn on Rey Mysterio, and then he went after the Undertaker. But the feud was good, but the ending to the match I thought was a little weird. But
yeah,
fans will find out soon enough. As the Undertaker was dwindling down his full-time career in WWE. He ended full-time in, 2010? The end of 2010? His last full-time was that feud with Kane.
Even then, he only came back in August of 2010 for a feud that culminated in November.
No, but I'm saying he was still appearing, like, full-time. Not week to week, but more than he is now. But
he was around more often, but I mean, it's not like he was doing house shows and whatnot. I remember even in October attending to show how banged up he was. They had a Halloween matinee in Boston, which they pushed heavily around Undertaker and Kane when Paul Bearer came back, but the fans were very disappointed when Undertaker was replaced by the Big Show.
Really?
Yes. They were disappointed that afternoon before they did a little trick-or-treating. And I remember,
well, they
funny
got a trick that day.
To show you how much I remember Sunday nights, I remember that night, Johnny and I taped here in the studio on that Sunday night after the event at the Garden. I remember going into the Garden that afternoon. I had a nice long talk with one of the independent wrestlers at the time and the young lady that turned into Sasha Banks.
Really?
Yep.
What color hair did she have?
I think it was brownish and short, probably a little past her ears.
Was it boss time?
I don't know what she did for work at the time, perhaps, but certainly not in the world of WWE. She was just a spectator that afternoon for the mayhem between Kane and the Big Show.
Was there a stipulation on it, or it was just...
I believe there was some kind of a stipulation. What it was, I really don't remember.
Probably some no holds barred. Or
I
no
remember that was a night
disqualification.
that I think attendance was, afternoon I should say, where attendance was really hurting, and we were in like the second row as opposed to where I like to be, which I will not disclose. But you know where I like to generally sit for events.
The bathroom.
No, you know where I like to sit to watch the events.
Yeah.
I do not. I'm not a floor guy. I'm not a
Suite.
I wouldn't mind a suite if they wanted to put me in one. I was in a suite at the, which one was it? The last WrestleMania when they had the fans.
2019, New York City?
Yep. And who popped up? No Way Jose and Otis Dosovic.
Your good personal friend.
Yeah. I don't know who it was, but they were picking some woman up in the, like they were lifting weights. I thought it was kind of funny. I didn't know Cupcake Salesman at that point.
Those chairs look a little different. They have like a roughness to them.
Oh, maybe they're gimmicked.
It's not like the usual smooth metal.
Yeah.
That's like shiny. It's like a...
Not like what they have down at Memorial Hall in Melrose, Massachusetts.
See, this was a finish that was...
The phone is going nuts. Then Marty again.
Jeez. Is it swaggy or waggy? No. Batista
I'm
looks
sure he's with
swaggy and waggy.
Swaggy and Waggy.
Them. R.I.P. Batista. I thought those were kind of weird. People would bring, whenever Undertaker would face someone, they'd bring signs that say R.I.P., you know.
Whoever.
Yeah.
Vicente Reyasco said, I'm not telling you guys anything anymore. I asked why. He said, you guys bring it up on everything, LOL.
As we just did.
His manhood, his socko,
And his other two friends.
his fruit roll-up.
He's got his own faction over in California.
And they never leave him behind.
Well, they're technically in front, but... I'm trying to think of how many matches. I said 7 or 8. They were all for titles, too.
Well, I like the opening match.
This match is all right. I mean, you're not going to get amazing matches out of Batista and Undertaker.
They had great chemistry together. I'll give them that.
It's chemistry, but it's not, the fastest paced matches, especially in 2009. Their feud in 2007 was good. When Undertaker won the Rumble and they faced each other at WrestleMania.
Yeah. That should have gone on last, in my opinion. But
instead of Cena and Shawn.
they didn't ask my opinion. I don't know. Even the Donald Trump match I could have seen going on last over the Cena and Michaels, even though that was an outstanding match in and of itself. But it's just the people paid the money to see.
That was Booby and Umaga, right?
Yep. That's the match that people paid to see. That's why that set pay-per-view records that night. So why not put that on last? Why risk having people leave the arena early? Which has
I
happened.
think people would have stayed for Shawn and Cena.
Well, that's happened many times that people have seen the match, the quote-unquote main event to them.
A WrestleMania main event that made people leave was the one in 2019 with the 3 women that ended the show.
That was one. I remember in Toronto for WrestleMania 18, they left in droves after Hogan and The Rock's match.
Even this year, everybody left right when it started.
No.
But I mean, even in 2018 with Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, is that really, I was there, but I just don't.
I really don't remember the fans leaving early for that.
No, but I'm saying it's a match that kind of makes you think, do you want to leave now? You know what I mean?
I'm just remembering the shows where they did.
And then
I remember after WrestleMania 25 in Houston, after Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, quite a few debauches.
What about 2016 with Roman and Triple H in Dallas? That's a match I would.
Somewhat.
That's a match I would consider. All right, let's.
But that whole show really didn't have anything all that spectacular to top that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like even you say, well, Rock was there, but that really wasn't anything that was advertised.
Well, he won.
Austin being there wasn't anything that was really advertised.
Foley.
Exactly. You weren't expecting those. Those were just little surprises that kind of
Cena
came.
coming back.
Cena, right? He was still injured at that point. Those were just kind of surprises that came with the show. I'm thinking of the advertised lineup. Maybe the match that had the most interest was
the ladder match
for the Intercontinental title.
Well, usually those are.
No.
But what else was there? Undertaker and
Honestly, I'll tell you this: there was a big boost in ticket sales when they announced that match. I don't know why they had the match go 32 minutes, but I wasn't in the meeting. That was
But that's what I'm saying is, given what was on the card, after Triple H and Roman Reigns, I mean, only other things I can think of were the Hell in a Cell and the ladder. Oh, Jericho and Styles for Styles' WrestleMania debut.
That was a tough year due to the injury bug. They had to rearrange a lot of that show. I mean, Lesnar and Ambrose, I don't think there was a heck of a lot of interest in that.
That was awful.
Rollins was out of action.
Cena was out. Rollins was out. Taker was facing Shane McMahon that they had to put a Hell in a Cell next to it just to boost it up.
I think that was the year, I'm not 100% sure, but at one point in like the fall, I get the years confused sometimes. I think that was 16. So in the fall of 15, I think they pitched Rusev to him. And the response was, when you have an idea, give me a call. Which I always thought was a funny response.
And Rusev he was with Barrett and Sheamus and Del Rio.
Yes, the League of Nations, I believe, was their name.
Yeah, and they faced the New Day, but it wasn't for the tag titles, and New Day ended up losing, which I thought was so stupid to do.
And what I thought is an amazing fact about that year's WrestleMania, the best-selling T-shirt of the entire week, it is a show that you can say maybe is perhaps a slightly disputed 100,000 fans, was that New Day had the best-selling shirt of the week. Over everybody.
Yeah, but that Mania really didn't have anything that was good. I mean, even the main event, Triple H, Who wants to see him main event a WrestleMania in 2016 as champion? You know, in the biggest crowd.
It served its purpose. They didn't have much to work with.
I know, but I know they had nothing to work with, but I'm saying overall, I mean, that Mania was kind of just, you know. And then they did that triple threat women's match.
Yeah, they pushed that as something so important and groundbreaking. Oh.
And they put it in the middle of the show, I believe. Or was that Coleman? No, that was earlier in the show.
No, that was in the middle of the show. I remember because my bladder could not take anymore.
That's when you saw JBL.
That's right. Yeah. And what I found the even better part of that story is that because they put me right next to the hard camera where all the NXT talent was. So well, for me to rush, you know the speed that I generally move isn't exactly rushing, but as quickly as my body would take me to the men's room, and in line, I met the man that put the Iron Sheik Humble video on YouTube that wound up on Howard Stern, which I thought was amazing. Out of 100,000 people in a venue, who am I going to run into but him as I'm waiting in line to go to the bathroom? Then security guards came and tried to clear out the bathroom. And as I'm standing there, who comes by but our friend, a man that's been in that very seat you were in while he was WWE Intercontinental Champion, but John Bradshaw Layfield. So I said hello and had about a tenth of a second of his time as he was trying to release his Aquafina and head back to the broadcast booth.
As Marty would say, Flomax.
To the little Flomax time, so we could get back to the broadcast booth for the women's, it was a championship match, yep. And then on
That's when they unveiled the new championship.
They said they were no longer divas, they were superstars at that point.
And remember they had Lita go out, I think it was the pre-show that Lita came out.
It was very important.
And did the title, and then they had the Battle Royal that night, and that's when Shaq came out. Remember that? Shaq came out, and they did the face-off with the Big Show.
And you thought Corbin was going to get a big push.
Still hasn't.
And I remember on my way back to my seat, who was standing, like I said, I was right next to the, what we call the hard camera, the production area, and who was standing there but one of my all-time enemies in the world of professional wrestling that I hate with a great passion, the Velveteen Dream, who just a few months before we had a wild scenario with Titan Towers in Stamford, Connecticut, and Patrick's look on his face was priceless when I went up and kind of gave him a little gentle fist to the shoulder. I said, "How you doing, brother?" And that was a good one. I liked that. And then I went back to my seat and enjoyed the remainder of WrestleMania 32.
What'd you call him the other day?
Patrick?
Yeah. A good friend?
Yeah. The first time he was in this studio, in the chair you're sitting in right now, I thought a lot of Patrick.
I might have to switch chairs then.
He was a guest, him, Leo, August Gray, I think, is that his name in NXT?
August Gray now?
August Gray, is that his name in
August
NXT?
Gray, yeah.
Yeah. The three of them were all guests of mine as a result of being guests at WWE the night after at SmackDown.
AG must have been young then. Or no, wait, what year was that? 2016? 2015?
15.
15? So he was... Yeah.
I've tried to take care of everybody. Some remember, some forget. But my intent is always there. Much like the intent of Dave Batista to try and cut off the oxygen supply of The Undertaker here at TLC 09.
Well, I know where he can get his oxygen supply
no, they're
from.
not going to get that plug, because I haven't got any oxygen. I get the oxygen, they'll get plenty of plugs.
With the office closed.
The only thing Wonderful's worry about plugging is corking at this point.
He's corking her.
The cork came off. Remember the year they did the tables, ladders, chairs, and stairs pay-per-view?
That was 2014.
When the Big Show and Eric Rowan had that classic stairs match.
That was in Cleveland.
The stairs didn't exactly connect with Eric Rowan, but I guess the attempt was there.
Comes the patented leg drop on the apron that I'm sure Undertaker's tailbone has taken a few hits from throughout his career.
Well, those poor hips, or whatever's in them now, suffered a lot from all those leg drops. For your enjoyment, fans, which is why we implore you to join us for the man that helped guide The Undertaker for many, 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 many years, Paul Bearer, the 9th annual Paul Bearer Holiday Headlocks Toy Drive. Cyber Fan Fest continues through the big night itself. We got that big cyber raffle going on, Socko, that we've been talking about, including some ring-worn gear from Savio Vega, some great merchandise. All the autographed photos are still available. As we like to say, it's a happening, and we're honoring Paul Bearer's memory, and we are updating Santa Claus's GPS to find every kid's house, because let's face it, 2020 has been a rough year. We don't want Santa missing any kid's house because of some kind of technological snafu, so to speak.
Well, if he doesn't want to miss any kids' houses, he can call it Velveteen Dream.
Well, he's not looking for Instagram addresses. He needs their homes. Look at that big-time suplex from Big Dave Batista on The Undertaker.
He's going for the pin. 1, 2, kick out.
Well, I don't know if I'd call that a kick, but...
It was an out.
He got out of it.
As I said, you're not going to get a top-notch match, especially when Undertaker's in his 19th year, which is crazy, 19 years. Man, I'm trying to think of someone now who's going into their 19th or around there and what they look like right now.
Well, Triple H has been around longer than that.
Yeah, but he's not doing anything right now. AJ Styles, I'm trying to think of what year he started. Is he in?
He wasn't with WWE for 19 years, yeah, but he was...
No, I'm saying in wrestling.
He was around, he was at the tail end of WCW in 2001, so he had to have been around before that.
I'm trying to think of someone who debuted or started in about Cena and Orton and Batista. So, but they're not. Orton's a good name, I guess, because he started around then. Lesnar. But Lesnar, I don't count him because he was in WWE for, as you would say, a cup of coffee, left for a while, came back.
I don't know if I'd exactly call it a cup of coffee.
No, I'm just saying that he was only there a few years. He accomplished a lot, but he wasn't there that long. I'm talking about 19 years end to end.
Consecutively, okay.
Like The Undertaker. Not some bullshit where Lesnar comes in for a few years, leaves, comes back in 2012.
Samoa Joe has been around, I'd say, 19 years at the very least.
But even, it's just and look at Lesnar since 2012. He's, as people like to say, the Lesnar schedule, where he shows up every couple months, sets up an angle.
Kind of like Dave Carter almost when it comes to the watch-alongs.
No, but you know what I'm saying about, he comes in, shoots his angle, does the match, leaves for a couple months, gets the payday, comes back. It's a cycle with him. Comes back around the beginning of SummerSlam, maybe does something there. Just if he was full-time from 2001 to even just 2018, okay. But, you know, even when he left, it was kind of a sour ending.
Very sour ending.
Yeah. With him and Goldberg at WrestleMania.
As my body can attest to, the night before WrestleMania 20 when I was assaulted as a result of a door in Brock Lesnar at the, whatever that hotel was, when him and Rena Mero, the beautiful Sable, tried to get away from autograph hounds and slammed into the rotating door so hard that the back of it hit me, and I went flying into the portion of the door in front of me, taking a Mankind-like bump at Hell in the Cell 98, with Sable looking down to see if I was all right, and Lesnar hurrying her away. And another one of those moments that I say, what the fuck just happened?
Like yesterday.
Well, I wish yesterday was that short. I wish yesterday was over in a split second. And you know what, as my back starts to act up a little bit, I think I'm going to take a little respite and head over to the old Marty backpack for a second. Hopefully I don't
Another Advil?
Oh, God. Hopefully I don't miss.
God.
Too much?
I don't think so. Actually, you might, but I'll keep you updated.
I'll try and be as quick
Spinebuster-
as I can, as I've wandered now approximately 4.5 feet from my chair. As you can see, my old man pillow that was a gift from our good friends at the Marriott in Philadelphia.
which we were so pleased to stay at.
Extreme Rules weekend. They saw me enjoy it so much in the lobby, they said, "Sir, you might need this for the ride home," even though I didn't know I was riding back, even though they didn't know I was riding back to Boston. My comfort was their main priority.
You took a nice ride in the WFAN mobile.
Well, at least the New Haven, yeah.
Beautiful New Haven.
Let's catch up on these texts.
This was one of the matches that I don't know. The feud didn't really equal the match, and it certainly did nothing for me. But as a kid, I liked Batista. I liked the Undertaker. It was just this match I kind of got bored with.
Yeah. I think Sarge Russo was a big fan of this one, though. She enjoyed the chairs match here at TLC 09.
Do you think we're going to get a chairs match tomorrow night? I don't even know, because we're a few weeks, 2 weeks exactly.
If they're going to call it TLC, I'm going to say yes.
What do you mean call it TLC?
If they call the pay-per-view TLC, I would imagine there will be a chairs match.
They haven't done a chairs match in a couple of years.
Well, maybe this year they will then. I know you remember the lineups far better than I do.
I think the last chairs matchup they did at TLC was Kalisto and Baron Corbin for the United States Championship in 2016. Yeah.
Yeah.
That one.
One of my favorites.
Oh boy. The AT&T Center in San Antonio, that's one of the bigger arenas in the United States. That fits a lot of people.
Several thousand.
Here we go. Undertaker going for the choke slam to put Big Dave away.
On the table? I mean the chair? No,
No, he didn't get the chair in there. He's going for the count now. 1, 2. You got Charles Robinson in on the count, one of the lefty referees in WWE.
Well, he's got a little Sandy Havenadias in him then if he's a lefty.
Oh boy. What do you think of Charles' hair? It just flows.
You know, there's a little nage in him, that's for sure. Maybe a lot of nage.
One of the WCW guys who was involved in that. Oh, here we go. Oh, and a low blow by Batista. Don't hate the player. Hate the game. Distracted referee. Batista hits the low blow on the Undertaker. He's got the chair in hand, ready to take out the dead man. Uh-oh.
Sorry I'm so distracted,
Bang.
fans, but this time of the year with the toy drive, I never know what to expect.
1, 2, 3.
Stick a fork in the
So
Undertaker.
Batista wins, but hold on, ladies and gentlemen, because as I said before, Teddy Long has a few words about the ending of this match.
Now, what happened with the finish? I missed it. What happened?
So Batista went to go push Undertaker into the corner, but the referee was there, so the referee did one of these and kind of cowered. Batista came up behind him, low blow, Undertaker fell down, Batista grabbed the chair, bang over the Undertaker's head. 1, 2, 3. Batista thinks he wins the World Heavyweight Championship. Teddy Long comes back out, shows the replay, tells the referee what happened, and they restart the match, and we'll find out what happens after that, if you don't know already.
So a low blow was enough to restart the match.
Because in a chairs match, it's not no disqualification. The only things that are legal...
You can be disqualified in a chairs match.
The only thing that's legal is the chairs.
Oh, okay.
That's the kicker in the chairs matches. The only thing you can use at your disposal is the chairs. Anything else, no go.
All right.
So he restarts the match.
It's a good thing we have Teddy to clarify this.
He's got a chair.
He's going to go after Teddy with the chair.
Teddy restarts the match. I like Teddy's theme song, too.
Yeah, that was a good theme song. It fit him well. Undertaker
sits up
rises.
as he literally looks like the dead man. Batista, he gets the big boot from Take. And he's going to take chair shot to the back. Undertaker's going to set him up for a quick tombstone pile driver. Oh. He hits him with a tombstone pile driver about 10 seconds after the match is restarted for a 1-2-3. And he wins his World Heavyweight Championship back pretty quickly.
Well, I don't think he ever lost it, did he?
I know. I'm just.
Well, I don't know. Was this a second match or was it restarted? I really can't hear.
Teddy said he's restarting it, so
okay.
technically Batista never won it, but he kind of won it back, kind of didn't. But Undertaker retains the World Heavyweight Championship, and he actually loses it at Elimination Chamber as well, because Shawn Michaels does the run-in, gives him the super kick, and that set up their second match at WrestleMania in Glendale, Arizona.
What a night this far here at TLC 2009.
I believe the main event is next between D-Generation X and Big Show and Chris Jericho. They battle in a tables, ladders, and chairs match for the Unified Tag Team Championships.
What goes on last?
I said that's the main event.
That comes up next?
I believe so.
Well, we are about 2 hours in.
Yeah, it's 2:48, the length. Yeah,
Potentially.
Unless they do some quick match before.
Usually where they'd put the women's match, but not tonight, obviously, as we saw.
Yeah, I said that earlier when the women's match
Piggy
was
James tank top on Layla.
In 2010, Elimination Chamber was actually the one that Undertaker got burned at.
That's right.
So not only did he get burned that night, he lost the title.
He got burned in more ways than one.
Look at that. I mean, the finish is good, but for the feud they had, I didn't think it was that great. Then Batista went on to win the WWE Championship, and as I explained before, so he really didn't have too much of a fallout from this match, because 2 months later he was WWE Champion. So he really can't complain that much about losing this match.
No, not at all. Batista's going to rest
gotta
in
take
one of
a
those
seat.
chairs now.
Looks like he's been hanging out with Snoop Dogg with all that smoke coming off the stage. So get out of here. I don't need any of you. Oh, that's when they started that. I don't need any of you. Remember, then he quit after that whole feud with Cena, after WrestleMania, and then he said, I quit.
He's in a wheelchair. Probably that Brian Knobbs would have liked to have used at that point.
And he really did, not technically, but we didn't see Batista for what, 4 years?
His time had come to an end. A little less than 4 years, yeah.
Looks like he's all out of sorts. Like he's been partying with Marty a little too much.
Well, it looks like some commercial or merchandise plug got cut.
That's what I said before about the Drew McIntyre. They cut from him walking on the ramp straight to backstage. I want to know what's gotten cut from these pay-per-views. Maybe it's, I don't know what it is. Something with phone numbers or something with, I don't know. Remember we were watching Survivor Series 87?
Yeah.
And that's it. Randy Orton and Kofi Kingston, that's next. And this was Kofi's, I guess you could say, first big feud with WWE, him and Randy.
That Randy cut off at the legs very, very quickly.
So this was the only match on the show that wasn't for a title, was Kofi Kingston versus Randy Orton in the co-main event slot.
Well, this feud heated up Kofi at this moment in time. But
and they really did nothing other than multiple U.S.
Randy said, That was that.
This was at the Garden,
Yeah.
where they had their big brawl, and then he...
And that was the night. Randy said, that was that.
What was what?
That was going to be the end of any sort of top-level push for Kofi for many, many, many years.
He gave him the boom drop. That was one of the shows that I actually went to as a kid, was that Raw. I remember they did DX and The Undertaker. I think that was the one. Undertaker teamed up with DX, and they faced Jericho, Big Show, and Batista. They did a 6-man tag, I believe.
It was wild.
It was hellacious.
I was disappointed that the legs were cut off from Kofi at this point, because it felt like this was his chance to shine.
I remember when they did in 2019, when Kofi was champion, and he did that feud with Randy Orton in the fall of kind of summer and fall of 2019. Yeah. And they kind of did callbacks to their feud in 2009, 10 years before, as we see Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase. Cody Rhodes now in AEW.
Is that where he is?
Oh, believe it or not. Who would have thought that he'd be kind of running a show 10 years later of his own, you know? Because right now, in this, when we're watching it, he's kind of just, would you consider a mid-card? I mean, he's with Randy, but,
Yeah.
I mean, he's with the tag team with Ted DiBiase. I mean, you can kind of compare, I don't know who to compare him to now, but if
Someone
someone
in the
told you in
mid-card.
2009 while you're watching this, he would run a company 10 years later, you know? I mean, 10 years is a little long, but I mean, still, it's just crazy to think. It almost makes you think anybody can kind of do anything in 10 years. Even less than that, because even just a couple years ago, he was a top guy on the indies that was working, not even indies, but he was working a lot of New Japan, ROH type of stuff that he was excelling at. What did you think of the Faction Legacy?
Not much.
I thought the idea was good, but I think the execution wasn't that. Like, Legacy makes sense because Ted DiBiase and his father, Cody and his father, and Randy and his father. So it made sense of, like, the family legacy. Oh, does this match get started? I thought it does. Why was Kofi working out right down the hall from Randy's locker room? It really doesn't make sense.
No, those locker rooms aren't all that big.
No, I'm saying for storyline purposes. Like, if you're a fan and you see Kofi walk 10 steps to Randy's locker room, don't you kind of think, you know, if they're that close to each other, how do they stay apart? I know they're small, like, in reality, but I'm saying for storyline, you'd think keep them farther apart than that.
I enjoyed that band quite a bit when I was in San Antonio, singing some of my favorite music.
Almost looks like Chris Jericho's jacket in the upper left.
No, I've never been in San Antonio for the Christmas time, but they have it well lit, I'll say that. So it looks like two more big ones before we cap off the night here on the TLC 2009 Watch Along.
Are we going to get to NXT TakeOver War Games? Because we got 7 o'clock. I mean...
Well, such is life, I guess. I don't know.
Unless we finish up the second or the... I don't know. I'm sure it'll end. It'll be close, I'll tell you that.
That's why I was kind of pushing you to get everything ready before we started, but, you know.
Everything
you
was
are
ready. I was waiting on you sitting at the desk, and then you said you had some social media stuff to do, so I waited a little bit longer as you
a little longer.
finished up your stuff at the...
When I went to brush my hair, I was getting ready to have you start. You said no.
You went to go
refused
do your
me.
hair, and all I did was put my phone on the charger, and I actually sat here and waited for you.
You should have done the hot open without me.
Yeah.
Jesus, Socko. You wonder why they all get on your case, kid. I know old Marty's a grizzled vet, brother.
Well, you didn't tell me, so how would I know?
I did tell you, and you said no.
I never...
I said, do the hot open. You said, I'm going to charge my phone.
You never told me that. You said, I'm going to brush my hair. And I said, okay, I'm putting my phone on the charger. And
We
I'll
remember it differently then, maybe is the best way to present it. But we'll get there. I have a feeling that everything will work out perfectly. This is the Boom Squad was certainly behind Kofi at this point.
Kofi went from being some Jamaican from Kingston, and then he lost the accent, he lost the Jamaican... he never really lost the Jamaican music, which I thought was weird. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Kind of happened with Crush back in the mid-90s when he was with Demolition, he had no accent. Then he came back with a Hawaiian accent. Then he lost it again.
But usually when you
Must have
change...
moved. I don't know.
Usually when you change sometimes... I mean, but his theme music went with the gimmick, the Jamaican theme and the... You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'd think they changed that when they went away with billing him from Jamaica to...
That was a good little song.
Oh, no, it was good, but it went with the Jamaican... Like, he's got the Jamaican flag on his pants and everything. Then he went from being from Jamaica to Ghana, West Africa, which is where he's really from.
Well, I guess it all depends on length of stay as far as where they lived.
Well, because he went to, what, Boston College?
He didn't spend a heck of a lot of time there. He was a Winchester, Massachusetts. If you were going to go by a hometown, Winchester, Mass probably would be the pick, but it's certainly not as sexy as Jamaica or Ghana, West Africa, even though Winchester is a fine town, home of Ambrose Capone, fine pool player from what I understand.
So I think this is the match where Randy was yelling at him. Remember they brought it up last year? Where he was yelling at Kofi, stupid, stupid. Remember that?
Vaguely. Getting a little late here at the TLC. We're going late night on Saturday night, because I'm on a tremendous JetBlue flight home from the Sunshine State to what hopefully will be at least a reasonably cool night here in Boston.
I think it'll be pretty cold.
Well, let's hope it's not.
The one day you get home, might be 80.
Wouldn't that be nice? It'll probably be 80 while I'm gone.
Traveling south is always good during the winter, but when you get back, it makes it that much...
It's unpleasant.
It makes it that much worse.
But I tell you this, the morning after I get back, you know where I'm going to be, fans. MWF Studios, downtown Melrose, Massachusetts, in the zip code of champions, editing together great productions for you before the man with the magic socks arrives here at the studio when we go live for TLC 2020. I'm sure it'll be a little easier for me because anytime I'm away with the Linda Marotti and the little ones, they usually have me up very early for, well, with my schedule, I don't know how many days I'm going to be able to do those types of things, but the days I'm able to go to the amusement parks and so on with them, I'm sure they'll have me up much earlier than I would be when I'm at home. Much earlier, but...
Better bring the Advil.
It's part of the excitement of going to the Sunshine State. It'll be interesting to see what business I get done there.
Is that enough?
And how it will affect things we do here in 2021. So I'm looking forward to this trip greatly, even though it's pretty much done by the time you see this. Whoop.
Whoa.
I thought it might have been it right there. But
You almost had the fork in him. But
Jamaican leg sweep.
boom, boom. Nope.
The cagey veteran rolls to the floor to avoid the boom, boom drop kick.
Uh-oh. Whoa. Ooh.
Now see, instead of him just standing there like an idiot waiting to be hit, that was a smart spot right there. That's why Randy Orton is a true professional wrestler.
See, to what you just said, a lot of, not even just WWE, you see it a lot in the other company, AEW, where someone's going for a dive, and they just, even when it's a group of people, they go like this. They like hold on to each other.
Oh, here he comes. I'm not going to move. Oh.
But even, you ever see when they hold on to each other
Yeah.
as they're coming? I think that's hilarious. But the thing is,
It's like cheerleading almost.
The thing is, you
they
can
take the girl and throw her up in the air, I should say, and
the thing is, you can do that, but when you catch it on camera,
yeah,
it makes it 10 times worse.
much worse.
Like if you have the camera on the guy going to the top rope,
That guy in the creamsicle shirt is all excited at this point. His little friend is trying to get a picture in.
it makes it a little better if you have the camera just on the person going to the top rope. But if they're taking forever, you don't even have to see the people that they're going to jump on, because you just think in your head, this guy's got to jump soon.
At some point, you got to jump.
Then they jump, and then some of them don't even make it to the people on the ground, and then the people who are on the ground kind of have to either move up or back, depending on if they jump too far or not enough, or they slip. The people that should be doing that are the people that can, because sometimes you get people that are just not athletic, just not able to do it.
Like Yazdronovic, if he ever tried to do it. I think it'd take him a little while to set it up.
I'm going to take a commercial break. Or as you like to say,
A brief timeout. It's down on the bottom rope, and they take the commercial. He still wouldn't make it to the top by the time they came back. He'd need to be pulled by Gabe Griff Garrison.
or Cecil.
Or Cecil the Lion. Holding his beer.
Yeah. Oh boy, this is, I wouldn't say a big feud, but for Kofi, this is big for him.
No, at the time, this was a very big feud. It was one
That's
of
what I'm saying, it was big for the time.
the top feuds on the Raw brand, that's for sure.
And you just stick it in a spot where most people are going to go to the bathroom, you know what I mean?
Not always. I always think it's a good idea maybe just to give the fans that opportunity to pause and take a breath before a big main event, but sometimes on a hot show, you don't go that route. This had a pretty good lineup.
But making...
I would have put maybe the Intercontinental title or the women's match here, but that's just my opinion.
I would have done the woman.
This had such a vendetta behind it, I don't think it would have been well placed early in the show. Again, that's just me. I think this had more of a build to it, if I remember correctly, than the Cena and Sheamus issue headed into the tables match.
Cena and Sheamus, they were just doing like that press conference with Cuban, and they didn't... What?
I didn't know what that noise was. I didn't realize you were playing with the microphone bags.
Oh, Jesus Christ. You saw him almost catch his neck?
Yeah, almost.
Jesus. Do you know the name of that move?
That one.
The SOS?
Yeah.
That was my second guess. Jesus.
It was almost SOL instead of SOS.
I want to know what Randy thought about that. That would be a good interview question, but obviously...
Why he hated working with Kofi Kingston
I want to
and
know
derailed his
why
push.
it was so bad to the point where he was just saying to Vince and anybody backstage, I don't want to do it.
Well, at least he fared better than Mr. Kennedy, that's for sure, when he ran into the same issue that Kofi did with Randy.
Didn't that happen with Cena and, was it Cena and Kennedy? Or no, that was Orton, right?
I think it was a 10-man tag team match, and if I remember correctly, if I remember even more so, I think it was around a time when they had to cancel either Raw or SmackDown because of an NBA playoff game in Denver, and they had to wind up doing back-to-back nights in LA with virtually just a couple of days to put tickets on sale, and they buried the venue on television as a result of it. You didn't even believe your team could make the playoffs for your fan base type thing.
And weren't they facing LA too? It was Nuggets and Lakers.
I think, if I remember right, one team wore Lakers and one team wore Nuggets.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, because the Lakers, I believe, were facing the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals.
Well, I don't remember that. I don't remember how that played a part in it, but I remember they had basketball jerseys on.
Yeah, because I remember...
And whatever Kennedy did that night, it was the end of Mr. Kennedy and his microphone.
And then I remember that happened with Cena and Alex Riley when he was facing The Miz. I remember Cena saying he didn't like Riley for whatever reason, but...
Well, I mean...
No, but it could be talent or it could be a personal thing, you know what I mean?
But I'm talking about, look at a situation where at least Kofi was an established guy that was in a good spot. Saying, Kennedy was a guy that they gave him Vince's middle name. There was a guy that was being groomed. Alex Riley was... He was almost like a Virgil
I'm
to the
talking
Miz.
about the story behind it, not the person. I like hearing the stories behind why they don't like working with someone, you know what I mean? I could care less if it's Riley or whoever, but I just like to hear the backstage stuff on when they say, oh, I didn't like him because he didn't look at me or whatever it was. Sometimes people have good reasons and sometimes people, you're like, okay.
Well, you had two budding careers, at least with Kofi and Kennedy.
Kennedy a little bit later, Kofi kind of in the budding process.
A lot of people, I don't think, even remember who Alex Riley is. If they do remember, I'm going to guess most likely they really don't care that he vanished from their wrestling world of entertainment and enjoyment. That could be it. Ooh, close to the ropes, though. Yep, well.
At that point, why not just kick out if you're reaching that far, you know?
A little easier.
I think it takes
less exertion of energy just to grab the rope.
I was just about to say, it's much easier just to put your shoulder up than kind of lunge for the rope. Here we go. I'm trying to think of how long the main event is. Unless we finish it up after. I don't know.
Kofi is exhausted at this point.
Unless we do it all over again.
No, we won't be doing that. Once is more than enough for this one.
But it was a solid first TLC pay-per-view.
Yeah, I'm ready to go get the DVD.
No, I'm trying to be serious.
I am too. How do you know I don't want to go buy the DVD?
Whoever buys DVDs nowadays is
a collector.
You got to be collecting them because it's like sometimes I'll see WWE DVDs on like the DVD section, or if you go to like a place like FYE, and some of them are like $10, and I go, why would you pay $10 for this when you can pay $10 for the network and just watch every pay-per-view they've had, you know?
You'd have to be a collector, I guess. Or maybe they look at it from the long-term point of view. They get to own it for life. They might not want to subscribe to WWE Network for $10 for life. If I am ever in an FYE and see someone eyeing a WWE DVD, maybe I'll ask them, what is the purpose of this?
That's a good question.
Attempted purchase.
Because even some of those 3-disc sets are like $20, $25. Some of them, the special ones, are like $30, where they have like the... Remember the ones they did? The history...
Stick a fork in Kofi Kingston, yeah?
1, 2, 3. Randy Orton defeats Kofi Kingston.
That was a good match.
Remember the one they did, the history of the WWE Championship, where it was like I don't know how many DVDs it was.
Many DVDs, multi-discs.
You know, remember the one they did? The 2 ones that came out? The history of the WWE Championship, the history of the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah.
And it was like $30 for the whole set.
No.
Back then it was good. They would make money off of it. But now it's like you can go back and watch all of those matches and everything they have.
Well, it's one-stop shopping on the DVD, though. You got to do a lot of searching if you want to see all those matches on the network. You'd rather do the searching.
So I'm paying $10 and I get more.
Yeah, big win for Randy Orton.
That's why I was on the WWE shop for Cyber Monday just to see what they had.
Did you get any goods?
No, I wanted a Macho Man Randy Savage hoodie, but I was like,
Yeah, you won.
I bought enough hoodies on Cyber Sunday before that.
What kind of hoodies did you get?
I got a Miami Heat jersey, or hoodie. I got a Texas Longhorns hoodie. And I believe the other one is I think it's a Chargers hoodie.
Yeah. Well, you'll certainly be warm this winter. Let's catch up on the messages real quick, because I heard a little buzzing going on. Vicente Ray, I think, is still a little hot under the collar, and
so moving to the main event. I believe it was, I'm trying to think, ladder match, Morrison, women's, this, Taker, main event. Trying to think of the other one.
of what?
I think 7. Was it? I think it's 7. The ladder match, McIntyre, World Heavyweight, Women's, main event, this, 6 so far. Has it been only 6 matches? Yeah, 6 or 7, I think.
Well, the Batista watch alone. Oh, wait, oh.
I remember this shot.
Teddy was.
Remember this shot of Teddy when he's shaking. Yeah,
Looks like he's tapping
it's almost
out.
like you and Cecil. And then he takes his hands away and he's shaking.
Yeah.
I remember this shot.
Not happy.
There's the Alamo. Almost looks like the studio.
I think with the studio's in a little better shape than the Alamo.
These people aren't wearing masks. What are they doing?
Well, wrong year. But. Fans, what have you thought of TLC 09 so far as we get ready for a tag team championship main event? Very rare. Justin Roberts, I can only imagine the introduction he would have liked to have done for this match, considering the way the AEW intros are done.
Didn't they tell him he had to kind of tone it down?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Because he started off as the ring announcer for ECW. Then he worked his way up. He's one of my favorites.
I think a little toned down, he's very good. I think the AEW version of him is too over the top.
I don't like that one. He goes a little too over the top. Like when he does John Moxley, I think he's still saying John.
For anyone in Spanish.
Yeah, where he rolls the R's and
rolls them.
He rolls them up like WWE.
I know, much like Cecil the Lion, he once had an issue with Gary Michael Capetta.
Did he pet him too?
I don't know about that, but I know they were, I believe, shared rooms. Shared a hotel room for months for Gary Michael Capetta's book tour. Prior to Justin's entry into the world of wrestling as a ring announcer. And
what was
there was a little heat between the two of them, and they parted ways.
What was your favorite stage of DX? Out of the 4 or 5 of them?
Probably when it was the 4 in '98, before they started turning all of them heel and back and forth. And
what about the one in the mid-2000s?
This?
What?
This one?
No, the other one they did in the mid-2000s.
The mid-2000s was when they put Shawn and Triple H back together again. Which one are you talking about?
When they did the feud.
This is the mid-2000s.
This is late 2009.
They put them back together in '06, and they stayed together through when he retired. Is that
They
what you're
didn't stay together.
Sure they did. When did they split up?
They split up in 2000. Remember, Shawn, 2006, they broke them back up. Because remember, Shawn went on to face John Cena at WrestleMania in 2007. Triple H went on to win the WWE.
Well, he was injured. He wasn't active at that point.
Shawn?
No, Triple H.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying that's why they broke up. Triple H was injured, but then he came back. And then he, at the 2008 pay-per-view, Royal Rumble, remember he was the last one with Cena? They weren't.
Well, I don't consider them broken up at that point. But yeah, they weren't doing the DX thing, I guess.
Yeah,
Because they
weren't,
put Triple H as the face of SmackDown.
They stopped doing the DX thing in 2006.
After the injury, yeah.
Yeah, because I believe...
When he came back, he didn't do DX. He did King of Kings.
That's what I'm saying, is they were broken up after that. I believe
but I don't know if I'd classify that as broken up. They just weren't teaming.
Well, I mean, they were...
There was no turn or anything.
Oh, no, I'm not saying they broke up like feuding. I'm saying they broke up like they were done with each other until this.
Jericho.
This, I thought, was a good tag team.
Oh, yeah. One of the...
No, I'm being serious.
I'm not, but...
The Miz and Big Show, I thought, was... I thought Jericho and Big Show were good together.
Simple problem with Big Show is that he was just too overexposed over the years.
Too many
He
heel and
sold
face.
too much, he turned too much, he's jobbed too much, and people never took him as to what he could have been, which was I don't know if I'd say one of the all-time greats, but certainly someone whose legacy could be bigger than what it will be.
If they booked him literally like a Big Show, imagine what...
not a little one.
No. Imagine what he could be right now. I mean... Especially with, I mean, the body phases he was in his career, how he went from being he would be bigger and then he kind of would slim down a little bit, then he would get bigger. But now he's in really good shape. He was actually in the main event of WrestleMania this year.
Who?
Big Show.
Oh, yeah, they were in that triple threat match after the Boston Garden security cameras caught him in a compromising position with Vicky Guerrero.
This year he faced off against Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship, the main event of WrestleMania.
A doc match at WrestleMania, please. Let's not go too far.
If you go to the card, it's Drew McIntyre defeating Big Show.
But in a doc match.
Well, they still had the WrestleMania set, and it was technically at WrestleMania because he came out after the match. As a technicality, it's WrestleMania, but if you want to get whatever, I mean...
I'm getting whatever. Whatever.
But even when they showed it on Raw the next night, they said last night at WrestleMania, or flashback, whatever they called it, with Michael Cole.
Oh. Big year for pay-per-views in Texas. A gentleman in the front row had on his WrestleMania 25 football jersey. Triple H maybe is looking for a kendo stick.
So I know the Rumble in 2009 was in Detroit. Mania was Houston. This was San Antonio. SummerSlam was Staples Center. SummerSlam was when Taker returned. I'm trying to think of where the other pay-per-views were.
You'd have to ask Vincent Laporta.
Yeah. Money in the Bank wasn't a thing. Gladly.
But I heard someone in here lurking at MWF Studios.
Maybe it's Puppet.
The door's locked, I think. You have to ask old Frenchie about that, but I'm pretty sure it's locked.
We'll find out.
The year before this, Michaels and Jericho had a fantastic feud.
They kicked the shit out of each other in those matches.
That is what actually led to the end of the official on-paper end of blood in WWE, was their feud.
Michaels, when he would bleed, he would bleed.
He liked to bleed.
It was like Flair. Whenever he got color, holy shit, his hair was red. Whoa.
Now, I believe the official rules for this one is you have to climb the ladder to get the belt.
Yeah.
All right. Just wanted to make sure about that for the fans at home that may be
Unless
watching
you
along.
somehow climb a table or a chair, but you'd have to stack them. They should do that. Have someone build like a scaffold of tables and climb up there.
You think that's what they should do, is table climb, almost like it's rock climbing,
Yeah.
to get to the top. Is he going to get him over?
He'll flip him. Yeah. Oh, boy. Chop, bang. Chop, bang. Slam, bang. Huh? You talk about the Street Profits doing the same spots. Atomic drop, chop, put him against the rope, slam, elbow drop.
I'm going to have a guess that in 30 years from now, we'll remember next to nothing about the Street Profits. Perhaps even that they existed, but we'll see.
And then Jericho went on. He won the...
He'll be managing the Inner Circle in 20 years.
He wins the World Heavyweight Championship at Elimination Chamber. The last person he pinned was The Undertaker, and he pinned The Undertaker because Shawn Michaels gave Undertaker the sweet chin music after he climbed up through the bottom of the chamber. Oh.
Big Show is moving rather gingerly at this point. Very gingerly.
So it gives him the... Those unified tag team titles, I tell you. Then Big Show, of course, he then later turned on Jericho and then went with The Miz. And he actually opened the following WrestleMania in a few months. It was him and The Miz versus R-Truth and John Morrison to open up WrestleMania.
Was that the opening match?
Yeah, WrestleMania 26.
I vaguely remember that even happened.
I
To
don't
show
know.
the relevance of the tag team title at that point.
And that was, Miz walked into that match as tag team champion and United States champion.
They were loving The Miz. It's almost like what Jan Grabowski and I did yesterday with the Canes.
And that was an interesting show, WrestleMania 26.
Big Show and Michaels never really had a big program during their time together. They
The
did
only thing
a
that...
few tag team programs, but never
Yeah, the
one-on-one.
The only thing that... Remember they did the McMahons versus
Yeah,
DX?
yeah.
And then
Yeah, like I said, a tag team.
I know.
thing.
I'm just saying, and the feuds that they had this one, then they did the one that I was saying. Remember they did the Hell in a Cell 3-on-2? That was at Vengeance or Armageddon?
No,
I don't know which
Unforgiven.
one. Unforgiven. I know it was
Because
one of
Hey
those.
Brother was part of that Edge and Cena feud, if you remember right.
Yeah. And then that's when they pulled Big Show's pants down and they put Shane's head in it.
Talk about an overbooked pay-per-view especially. A Hell in a Cell and a ladder match, or whether I don't remember
TLC.
if it was ladder match or TLC on the same show.
Yeah, because that's when he put Edge. Was that Edge or is that Orton? That was.
Edge.
Yeah, remember he AA'd Edge through the two tables?
Yeah.
So it was TLC.
Hey Brother was at ringside.
Enjoying it. I'm guessing they didn't go to Kowloon after.
Well, it would have been a long trip from Toronto. They must have really wanted the Chinese food if they went to Kowloon after Unforgiven 06.
But, yeah, that's when he put him through the tables, won the title. But, yeah, that paper... No, holy shit, that was the same year then, I guess.
Marty.
Oh, man. 642.
Marty's partying, baby.
With Swaggy and Waggy.
I hope. Don't want to leave one out.
Come on, Trips. Oh.
Unforgiving steel ladder.
I love when they say the same lines. When it's steel versus bone or something like that.
Steel will always win.
Steel, yeah. The same shit they say anytime there's steel involved or something. Or they give them the George Costanza, that's gotta hurt. Oh boy. That's why commentary now, and even back to then, it sounds robotic. I don't know what the fuck they're doing with this ladder.
Trying to figure out where Big Show is.
They're suplexing it.
Double suplex on the ladder.
Or on Jericho. Oh, well, technically on the ladder, then onto Jericho.
Suck it, brother.
Is that what Lanny said to himself?
Yeah, he was a big DX fan. His response to them was always all right.
Or himself.
We got 2 words for you, Lanny.
He lived their gimmick.
He did. He wanted residuals like he's getting for Randy's t-shirts nowadays.
Oh, boy. We might be cutting it close.
You know, if it was me, I would have been given the ref the take it home cue several minutes back on the DX Jericho main event here. Up there he is. An angry, wild giant. Sean's pants stayed on better here than they did at WrestleMania 10.
Jesus.
An aggressive Big Show.
Look at that. Look at those hands. Basement drop kick. And Mike Chioda.
This could be it.
Is the fork coming out?
The fork?
Yeah, stick a fork in him.
Oh. But Abdullah might have doing a walk-in.
Walking.
That bulldog chest first into the steel, unforgiving steel ladder.
Big Show. Look at his knees, man.
All right.
Here we go.
Tension is building in San Antonio, hometown of HBK himself. And what would be the midst of the final 4 months of the man's career?
Supposedly.
Well, outside of that nonsense, a couple of years back, his full-time active career in the company. Outside of that miscue in Saudi Arabia.
That was awful.
Now, wait a minute.
The money had to have been talking that month, because is it Marty? Is he partying?
Marty is one of the messages, yes.
Did he say he was partying?
No, I usually don't ask.
Because you already know the answer.
Well,
Oh, Jesus. Even this DX in 2009, I thought it was good, but it was kind of just like... I'm trying to think. I believe... I'm trying to think of how they ended this one. Because Triple H and him, I'm trying to think of how they kind of ended this kind of farewell tour of DX. I don't know how. Because I know Triple H went into that program with Sheamus, and he faced him at WrestleMania, and started that whole thing with him, and then Shawn went into his thing with Undertaker. So I'm trying to think of how they broke up DX this time around. Because
do
I
you
know
mean?
Shawn Michaels went into the Rumble, and he said, if I don't win the Rumble, then I have no match at WrestleMania. He did the thing that Cena did in 2018.
What year did he say this now?
2010. So it was after this. Shawn went into the match, and it was... Got hair in my mouth.
No.
And he went into the match, if I don't win this, you know, the career's over, I have no match, I have no purpose, da-da-da-da-da. The same thing that Cena was saying in 2018. And then Jericho, I believe it was Jericho that eliminated him from the match in the Royal Rumble.
Well, we'll have to do maybe a Royal Rumble watch-along.
But Shawn wasn't in his DX gear. So they had to have broken them up between December 13th and the end of January. But I don't remember how they did
Well, they
it.
worked the house show loop until he retired. That I know is a fact.
As DX?
Yeah.
That's weird because they never did anything on screen that was DX because he went into his thing with Undertaker. Triple H was doing his thing with Sheamus. So they
That
were
was a
kind
big
of
one.
doing their own thing. So...
Well, they didn't really need to be together at that point, I guess.
No, I know. The main thing that I'm thinking about is how they did it, you know? They didn't just suddenly, all right, see you later.
No, they never split. They just, I guess, probably 1 week. They started a singles angle for one and a singles angle with the other, I guess maybe is the best way to put it.
Well, that's WWE. They
Triple H was far down the totem pole for WrestleMania 26.
I think he was the second match that night behind Big Show.
Just
and The Miz.
even, no matter where it was.
Oh, no, I know. I'm just...
Place as far as if you were to look at, if you were going to rank the matches in order of
I know
importance.
what you mean. I'm just saying.
That one was way down for him.
I'm just thinking of when the match was. I believe it was second.
I think you're right.
And
I know it was real early, too.
Yeah.
It was, the sun was still out.
I think that was second. And Triple H actually beat Sheamus. Then they had a match at Extreme Rules.
Did they? That I don't remember.
Their program went from February, March, all the way through May, I want to say.
I never remembered them wrestling after WrestleMania.
Yeah, they did that match at Extreme Rules
Whoa.
where Sheamus won, but earlier in the night, he attacked Triple H backstage with a lead pipe, but Triple H still came out and wanting to fight.
Well, he is the game after all.
And
he wanted to play.
And 2010 was, a lot of these guys, Shawn Michaels was done, Triple H was kind of done full-time.
Yeah.
Undertaker was done full-time.
You could look at the DX run that we mentioned where Shawn finished up pretty much his career with Jericho and Big Show in those tag team matches, but Triple H was never a regular on the house shows again after that. I mean, he would, from time to time, he'd do a couple of big shows, but never, ever, ever did he do. He was someone that might work.
Then you look at
I'll say this: if there was a year he did more than 20 matches after 2010, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, because even he was almost on the Undertaker schedule, a little bit higher, but he was on that schedule for after that. I mean,
he just had more important things to do.
The only
thing, that's a good. Well,
you could tell he
that
was
was a
supposed
good
to catch
spot.
him.
Yeah.
But the only extensive program that he had after 2010 was the one with Brock, where he faced him. It was Mania, Extreme Rule, or SummerSlam. That was it. SummerSlam, and then. But that was really the only extensive one that he had after the few Undertaker ones he had in 2011 and 2012. Then he had that bullshit in 2014 with Evolution returning with the Shield. And then 2015...
I think he did 3 pay-per-views in a row at that point.
2015, he then did that thing with Sting. That was pretty much it. And then 2016, he was champion.
But I got to admit, I like that. I like that they gave him the belt at that point, because it felt different and it felt fresh and it felt new, where it had been so long.
That was one of the few times since 2016 the crowd was actually like surprised and mad at the same time. You know what I mean?
I wasn't surprised, but it was a hellacious night at the Amway Center in Orlando, Florida, where the Thunderdome is going to be set up for Oh, no, it won't be set up for TLC.
No,
They'll be at the,
Tropicana.
wherever they call that. Yeah, that one.
that place is a shithole.
You can say that again.
Have you been there before?
Yep.
I believe you think you. Yeah.
No, I like the Amway Center, but
No, but I'm talking about the basic fan in 2016 when Triple H came out. They were kind of just, people who read the sites and stuff like that. That's a different story. But I'm saying to the fans that are just, just kind of just watch the shows and that's it.
I just remember the nice time I had around there. I probably stayed down in Florida for almost a month for that trip. That was a good little period for Dan Marotti.
So what do you want to do here?
What do you mean?
I think we might get the go home before them.
Well, I may have to leave you for the climax to at least get things ready, but we'll see. I haven't given up hope yet. I have not given up hope yet. For the fans that have no idea why we're kind of in a state of flux, NXT TakeOver begins at 7 p.m., and as we're recording this, it's 6:54 p.m., and as you know, we like to go live for our watch-alongs when they're not from 2009.
It'd be kind of hard to go live.
It would be very difficult.
Unless we get in a time machine.
I would bet you my bottom dollar I was at this studio the night of this pay-per-view. Doing what? Probably preparing for the next big MWF Live extravaganza.
I don't want to say it, but when the finish happens, but to the fans watching, is I might need a little flow match.
Now, wait a minute. He's ripping the ladder apart with his bare hands.
Whoa, watch out, Mike.
Mike Yoder almost got an early release right there.
Oh, boy. He wouldn't be able to do his AEW spots every 4 weeks for Cody's matches. There we go.
Now, that'd be kind of a hard ladder to climb right now, I'm going to guess. Be almost like a pogo stick trying to get to the middle
Oh,
of
that's
the
right.
ring.
You haven't seen this.
No.
Well, I don't want to spoil it for you or anybody watching right now, but
Oh, what a... Well,
stick a fork
some
in it.
ideas are better on paper than they are in execution, I guess.
Look at Chris.
Well, I think it might be a better idea to get another ladder, or maybe climb the Big Show's shoulders. No, they're going to take a page out of my creativity book? Looks like Andre and Jimmy Snooker at MSG back in '84. Who would, I know, why bother to get the other ladder on the outside of the ring, which would have taken 2.5 seconds, as opposed to this? But a nice little spot, I guess.
The best is Big Show's face here.
This is Big Show saying, fuck, I don't want to drop him.
Wait for this part.
Oh, that's going to be a big bump.
Wait till you see it.
That's going to be a big bump.
Well, you know where he's going, right?
Outside of the ring, I would guess. Well,
And he hit his head on the
he
table.
probably expected to go just a couple of inches further to go through it, but... All right, come on, DX. Break it down, baby. Super kick. We're going to see maybe a little pedigree action. Nope, double clothesline with the ladder over the top.
And they actually drop it over the ring.
Yeah, you do. Well,
and Sean has to go and get it.
We need that.
Because here's the thing that I don't get. If he's already out there, just grab another ladder. But they messed up holding on.
Oh, they still have that one-piece one, too?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's why I'm saying is why don't, if you're already outside the ring, just grab the other. But Sean is...
Oh, you know what? I actually like this. This is kind of creative.
Yeah, the ending
He's going to hold it for him?
It would have been better if they could hold on to the ladder.
Well, we're in kind of a rush as DX become the new unified or whatever they are, tag
The
team
Unified
champions.
Tag Team Champions.
What do you give this one on a scale of 1 to 10?
I thought this was a good pay-per-view. I give it a 7.
7. That's what I was going to give it. All right, you give it the go home. I'm going to get ready.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the 2009 TLC. Is tomorrow night. You'll see the 2020 TLC. A much different roster than this one tonight. Make sure you guys join us tomorrow night. Hopefully you enjoyed this watch along, as we're going to try to do more of them from the older shows. The reason we did this one, if anybody's wondering, is this is the first TLC of the pay-per-views. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned to our social medias for more updates on other shows and watch-alongs that we do. Make sure you guys stay safe in times like this. And Merry Christmas. Don't get offended, please. But Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays if you did get angry. But have a good night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.